Chapter 4067. Wang Xiong had yet to display his strength that was comparable to Yuan Moyu's. However, the attention he received was much greater than Yuan Moyu's. Even Yuan Moyu looked solemn when he entered the arena to confront Wang Xiong. His eyes were full of vigilance and he did not dare to underestimate Wang Xiong. Wang Xiong, I'm curious about your true strength just like them. Yuan Moyu stared at Wang Xiong and said in a deep voice, if possible, I hope you can defeat me as quickly as possible. Otherwise, I won't give you the chance to show your strength slowly. Yuan Moyu's words conveyed one thing: he would not hold back. He would attack with all his might and he would not play with Wang Xiong slowly. Wang Xiong smiled faintly when he heard Yuan Moyu's words. The Heaven's Roar sect of the state capital of Qing is indeed different. If that's the case, let me see how the Heaven's Roar sect's Roar sect is like. After he spoke, Wang Xiong's originally indifferent aura suddenly changed. It became somewhat sharp and his messy hair became even messier. As Lin Donglai announced the start of the battle, Yuan Moyu took the lead. It was just as he had said. He attacked with all his might and blood mist surrounded his body. Just like when he defeated Tuoba, he displayed an extremely terrifying attack. It swept toward Wang Xiong like a storm. Wang Xiong's body also emitted a dazzling golden light. The golden light was like saber radiance and sword radiance, and it was extremely fierce. In the void, the light blade was so sharp that it seemed to cut the air into pieces. Then, as he raised and withdrew his hands, the saber radiance and sword radiance all converged and finally condensed into a golden sword radiance, which merged into the superior grade divine sword in his hand. Slash. Wang Xiong shouted softly, and the sword in his hand slashed down to meet Yuan Moyu's full attack. In an instant, it was as if Mars had collided with Earth. Waves of terrifying power exploded in the void like dazzling fireworks. At the same time, the aftermath of the terrifying power spread to the surroundings, but Lin Donglai, who had been prepared for it, easily neutralized it. When the smoke screen created by the shockwaves dissipated, two figures appeared in everyone's line of sight. Wang Xiong stood with his sword in hand. His sloppy figure was incomparably arrogant. On the other side, Yuan Moyu had clearly retreated a certain distance. His body was on the verge of collapse, and traces of blood flowed out from the corners of his mouth. It was dazzling. Yuan Moyu lost. Although he was mentally prepared, Duan Lingtian couldn't help but feel a little shocked when he saw this scene with his own eyes. Wang Xiong was actually so strong? As for the others, their thoughts were more or less the same as Duan Lingtian's. No one had expected that the battle between Yuan Moyu and Wang Xiong would end up like this after a single move. Yuan Moyu was seriously injured. Wang Xiong seemed to be unharmed? Perhaps he was injured, but it was definitely a light injury. Otherwise, it would be impossible for him to remain so calm. You're stronger than me. After leaving this sentence, Yuan Moyu shook his head and sighed. He then turned around and walked back to where the people from the Heaven's Roar sect of the state prefecture of Qing were. At this moment, a group of senior officials from the Heaven's Roar sect of the state prefecture of Qing had a grave look on their faces. They had thought that Yuan Moyu would be able to get into the top 3, but now it seemed that this matter was a little uncertain. Where did this Wang Xiong from the Cold Mountain residence of the famous residence come from? Did the Cold Mountain residents find outside help? The group of people from the Heaven's Roar sect couldn't help but think so. However, they quickly confirmed that Wang Xiong was from the Cold Mountain residence of the famous Wang Xiong. Wang Xiong was originally a disciple of the Cold Mountain residence of the famous residence. However, the strength he displayed in the past was not considered to be monstrous, so he only had a little reputation in the Cold Mountain residence. People outside had never heard of him. However, few people knew about Wang Xiong in the past. After this 7 prefectures banquet, his reputation would not only shake the 7 prefectures, but even many people outside the 7 prefectures would know about him and even pay attention to him. So strong. At this moment, even Lin Yuan, who had always been calm, had a slightly grave look on his face. As for Tuoba, although she did not show any abnormalities on the surface, there was actually a huge uproar in her heart. At the same time, she felt a little bitter and felt that her chances of entering the top 3 were extremely slim. Number 5 entered the stage. While everyone was still shocked by Wang Xiong's strength, Lin Donglai had already spoken and let the next challenger enter the stage. Number 5 was Lin Yuan, the genius of the Mystic Jade Mansion's Flame Howl sect. Now it was supposed to be number 6's turn to enter the stage. However, due to the special situation of number 6, there was no need for her to enter the stage at all, so she was directly skipped over. Number 6 was Tuoba, the genius of the Yuan clan of the Underworld Mansion. She was a genius that the Underworld Mansion had put in all their efforts to cultivate. At this moment, there were still murderous gazes from the originally sect of the famous residents staring at Tuoba Shio. A few of the senior officials who were loyal to the originally sect were even observing if there was a chance to directly kill Tuoba Shio. In their opinion, as long as they could kill Tuoba Shio, it did not matter if they were killed by the Underworld Mansion's experts next. It was worth sacrificing one of them to eliminate a hidden danger like Tuoba Shio. Unfortunately, they could not find a chance at all. This was because the 3 intermediate god emperors from the Underworld Mansion were staring at them from the beginning. Moreover, even if the 3 intermediate god emperors from the Underworld Mansion were not watching, it would not be easy for them to kill Tuoba Shio with Lin Donglai present. Earlier, they had even sent a voice transmission to Lin Donglai, wanting to make a deal with him. They wanted him to turn a blind eye and not interfere when they attacked Tuoba Shio, who entered the stage next time. However, Lin Donglai rejected them directly. I don't seem to have any other choice. After Lin Yuan entered the stage, he looked at Yuan Moyu, who had just been defeated by Wang Xiong in the previous round. So far he had not fought with Yuan Moyu. Of course, in the eyes of everyone present, Lin Yuan's strength was definitely stronger than Yuan Moyu's. This was because Yuan Moyu's strength was on par with Tuoba Shio's. To be precise, he was on par with Tuoba Shio before she had awakened the Blood Phoenix bloodline. If Tuoba Shio was in his prime and prepared, he might be able to defeat Yuan Moyu. Do you choose to rest or enter the stage to fight with me? Lin Yuan looked at Yuan Moyu with a faint smile at the corners of his mouth. On the other hand, Yuan Moyu had a bitter and helpless expression on his face. I'm no match for you. Even if you challenge me for this battle, I'll accept your challenge. I admit defeat. Although Yuan Moyu could apply for a break in this round, he did not do so. He knew that he was not Lin Yuan's match, so he did not waste any time to stop Lin Yuan from advancing further. Otherwise, Lin Yuan would definitely be able to reach his current position in the next round. He might as well give up his position in advance and stand at the back to watch Lin Yuan display his strength. The person being challenged will admit defeat if he doesn't enter the stage. Lin Donglai looked at Lin Yuan as he spoke. Now, as number 4, do you want to challenge number 3? According to the rules of the 7 Prefectures Banquet, you have entered number 4 without fighting, so you must challenge number 3. Of course, number 3 has already fought someone and can choose to rest. However, if he doesn't rest, you can either fight him or admit defeat and admit defeat. Number 3 was Wang Xiong, who had defeated Yuan Moyu earlier. Now, as Lin Donglai finished speaking, everyone's eyes were focused on Lin Yuan. More people's eyes were shining with anticipation. Lin Yuan had to challenge Wang Xiong. As for whether he agreed or not, it was up to Wang Xiong to decide. Lin Yuan could not avoid this battle. Number 3 enter the stage. Lin Yuan looked straight at Wang Xiong and said in a deep voice, "Of course, if you feel that you haven't recovered to your prime, you and I can fight again in the next round." "I won't take advantage of you," Lin Yuan said. "No need." However, just as many people were guessing that Wang Xiong might choose to rest and fight Lin Yuan again in the next round, Wang Xiong responded to Lin Yuan in this way and broke through the air and entered the stage in the blink of an eye. That was just a short exhaustion. I'll recover now. No need to wait for the next round. Let's end this quickly. I also hope that this 7 Prefectures Banquet will end soon. Wang Xiong entered the stage and confronted Lin Yuan. His eyes were solemn and sharp, and his temperament had changed again. He was no longer as lazy as before. He was also not as serious as when he faced Yuan Moyu. Now he gave people a feeling that he was completely serious. This subtle change was also noticed by the onlookers. Suddenly, a group of people's eyes flashed with unprecedented anticipation. These 2 people didn't use their full strength earlier. For example, Lin Yuan didn't use his bloodline power when he defeated Tuoba Shio. It's the same for Wang Xiong. He didn't use his bloodline power when he defeated Yuan Moyu. I'm really curious who is stronger between the 2. This Lin Yuan is said to be from a god-venerable family. A prodigy from a god-venerable family? No wonder he's so terrifying. I feel that Wang Xiong is the most terrifying. This Wang Xiong is from the famous Cold Mountain residence, but in the eyes of the people there, he has always been very ordinary. If it were me, I wouldn't be able to hide so well. While the crowd was bursting with anticipation, Duan Lingtian's eyes also flashed with some anticipation. Lin Yuan and Wang Xiong are going to fight so soon? In his opinion, if these 2 people were going to fight, it also meant that the 7 Prefectures Banquet was coming to an end. Perhaps both of them will have to use their full strength in this battle. At this thought, Duan Lingtian's expression became completely serious. This was because he felt that, compared to the current him, the true strength of these two people might not be any weaker. It would be difficult for him to win first place in this 7 prefectures banquet. Chapter 4068. Lin Yuan challenged Wang Xiong, who had just entered the top 3 in the 7 prefectures feast and was currently ranked 3rd. One was the external aid that the mystic Jade Mansion's Flame Howl sect had found. He was suspected to be a prodigy from a godly venerable family. The other was a hidden prodigy from the famous Cold Mountain residence. He was the biggest dark horse in this 7 prefectures feast. His strength was amazing, and he had defeated all the other prodigies along the way. A breeze blew, and the robes of the 2 young prodigies fluttered slightly. At this moment, the atmosphere suddenly quieted down after Lin Donglai said, "Let's begin." Everyone held their breaths, waiting for the 2 to make their moves. However, neither of them made a move. The crowd was not surprised by this. After all, at their level it was not necessarily a good thing to strike first. If one was caught by the opponent, even if they did not lose their chance of winning, they would still be at a disadvantage temporarily. Under normal circumstances, being at a disadvantage temporarily would not have much of an impact. However, if the opponent seized the opportunity and attacked relentlessly, it could become one's greatest disadvantage. Who is stronger between the 2? Lin Yuan? Wang Xiong? The discussion of the group of Pure Sun sect's disciples resonated in Duan Lingtian's ears. Their discussion was actually the same as Duan Lingtian's. He was also curious about who was stronger between the 2 of them. Furthermore, the 2 of them would be his most troublesome opponents in the competition for first place in the 7 prefectures feast. In the end, Wang Xiong made the first move. The moment he made his move, his sword pierced through the air. A dazzling golden sword ray shot directly towards Lin Yuan. It looked like a simple sword move, but it made the faces of the prodigies turn solemn. This sword strike appeared to be very simple. It was a casual stab. However, the aura on the sword ray made all of them feel a dangerous aura. The one who felt it the most was naturally Lin Yuan, Wang Xiong's current opponent. As Wang Xiong's sword moved, the indifference on Lin Yuan's face disappeared and was replaced by a solemn expression. He had obviously sensed that Wang Xiong's sword move was not simple. In the next instant, Lin Yuan also moved. A destructive aura rose from his body. Then a top-tier divine sword also rose into the air. It carried a frightening destructive aura as it swept out. The sword swept out like a burning stick, causing the void to tremble. It let out a bellows-like roar as it met Wang Xiong's sword. A moment later, the sweeping sword and the thrusting sword collided with one another. At the moment of collision, silence reigned. After a short while, a loud sound was heard without any warning. Then, the battle between the destructive power and the golden power intensified. Whoosh! While the first wave of attacks clashed, Wang Xiong and Lin Yuan didn't stay idle. Both of them moved at the same time, drawing their swords and darting towards each other. Then, it was a round of close combat. The 2 of them fought fiercely. Their chi energy wreaked havoc and the air in the entire void shook. The spectators could feel that the void space in front of them was not very stable. Clearly, the battle between the 2 had affected the stability of the space to a certain extent. Bang! A loud sound was heard. It was Lin Yuan who stepped into the air. His entire body seemed to have turned into a sharp sword, soaring into the sky. In the blink of an eye, he was behind the clouds and disappeared. A moment later, another loud sound was heard. It was Wang Xiong who had chased after him. After a while, a series of loud noises came from the top of the clouds. The clouds that were originally gathered together also dispersed, and there was a cloudless blue sky in everyone's vision. The 2 of them didn't fight for long above the clouds. Soon they stepped into the air again and descended. In the eyes of the spectators, the 2 of them fought more and more fiercely. It didn't take long for both of them to display amazing strength. The strength that Wang Xiong displayed was no weaker than when he defeated Yuan Moyu. The same was true for Lin Yuan. The strength that he displayed now was no weaker than when he defeated Tuoba Xiu. Moreover, as they continued to fight, the strength of the 2 seemed to be still rising. These 2 have been hiding so much of their strength? Looking at the history of the 7 prefectures feast, there should be very few such monsters in the history, right? They're not even 10,000 years old, but they have such battle strength? Lin Yuan might be a genius from a godly venerable level clan. But this Wang Xiong, what's up with him? Does this Wang Xiong also have a godly venerable level clan behind him? There is indeed a godly venerable level clan with the surname Wang in the vicinity of the 7 prefectures. However, I heard from the people in the Cold Mountain residence that Wang Xiong grew up in the Cold Mountain residence. His parents are ordinary disciples of the Cold Mountain residence. He shouldn't be related to that godly venerable level clan. While the crowd was discussing, Duan Lingtian's expression became more and more solemn. These two still haven't reached the end? Now he was already feeling tremendous pressure. If these two continued to show their strength, it would be harder for him to win first place than to climb to the heavens. In fact, to him to win first place he didn't need to defeat the two in front of him at all. He only needed to fight to a draw with them. However, if these two continued to show their strength and displayed even greater strength, then even if it was a draw he had no confidence in winning. Now, Duan Lingtian wasn't the only one who had a solemn expression. The Consonance Mansion's Qitian sect's genius, Han Di, had an extremely ugly expression because the strength displayed by the two in the field had far surpassed his. Looks like there's no hope for the top three this time. Han Di sighed inwardly. In fact, to him, whether or not he could enter the top three was actually not that important, but to the Qitian sect, it was extremely important. It was also because of this that the Qitian sect had spent a great deal of effort to cultivate him in secret. Thinking of this, Han Di glanced sideways at the Qitian sect's senior executives. As expected, the group of people didn't look too good. It feels like their strength is stronger than Duan Lingtian's. Seeing that the two in the field were beginning to activate their bloodline power, Han Di's heart stirred as he thought to himself, although Duan Lingtian didn't use his bloodline power back then, he has a law clone. However, he didn't use his law clone back then, but his strength was already stronger than mine. I just don't know if his law clone boosts his strength as much as the bloodline power of these two people. If it does, perhaps he'll have a fighting chance. If it doesn't, he'll definitely lose. Although Han Di and Duan Lingtian had only displayed their strength for a brief moment back then, Han Di still had a certain understanding of Duan Lingtian's strength. In the field, Lin Yuan and Wang Xiong had displayed their bloodline power one after another. However, they were still evenly matched. I'm afraid these two will end up in a draw. Now, it wasn't just Duan Lingtian who thought so. Even the senior executives of the various manors and major forces present, including the Middle God Emperors, basically thought so too. Based on the current situation, the two of them didn't seem to be holding back anymore. Seeing this, Duan Lingtian secretly heaved a sigh of relief. This was fine. If these two people were even stronger, he really wouldn't have any hope of securing first place in the Seven Manors banquet. Just as he heaved a sigh of relief, Duan Lingtian suddenly seemed to have sensed something, and his pupils abruptly shrank. Something's not right. At the same time that Duan Lingtian's pupils shrank, Yi Qinfeng, who was sitting on a small floating island, had a subtle change in his originally calm expression. Somewhat interesting. In the field, the originally evenly matched situation was directly broken with Wang Xiong's sudden burst of strength. Swoosh. The crisp sound of the sword emitted a dazzling golden light, but at the same time, there was an extremely sharp aura that tore apart Lin Yuan's attack in one fell swoop and then defeated Lin Yuan. The originally deadlocked situation was directly broken. Wah! Lin Yuan was sent flying and blood spurted out of his mouth. When he looked at Wang Xiong again, his eyes were filled with disbelief. This is the fledgling form of Sword Dao? In fact, Lin Yuan was also proficient in the sword. In fact, he had spent a lot of effort to master Sword Dao, and he already had some understanding of the fledgling form of Sword Dao, and there was hope for him to master it. However, there was only hope for him to master it. In today's battle with Wang Xiong, he realized that in terms of Sword Dao, Wang Xiong's attainment was also very deep and was not weaker than his. In fact, Wang Xiong was probably just a step away from mastering the fledgling form of Sword Dao. Just like him. In the intense battle with Wang Xiong, he actually had the intention to train himself, so he didn't hold back and went all out. However, he didn't expect that in the end he would break through the bottleneck of Sword Dao comprehension and master the fledgling form of Sword Dao, helping Wang Xiong instead. Many thanks. At this moment Wang Xiong's face was filled with joy, and at the same time he bowed slightly to thank Lin Yuan who was sent flying by him. His tone was also filled with unconcealable excitement. Forget it. Lin Yuan sighed. You and I are originally evenly matched. Now that you have mastered the fledgling form of Sword Dao, I am no match for you. As soon as he finished speaking, Lin Yuan retreated. As the host, Elder Lin Donglai of the Flame Howl sect also sighed subconsciously. He originally thought that with Lin Yuan around, the first place of the Seven Prefectures banquet was already set in stone. However, he didn't expect that in this Seven Prefectures banquet, there would be an anomaly like Wang Xiong. Previously, although he knew that Wang Xiong was not weak, he didn't expect him to be so strong. Wang Xiong won? When Lin Yuan left the stage, the crowd was stunned. It was only after a while that they regained their senses one after another, and their faces were filled with shock and disbelief. Wang Xiong defeated Lin Yuan? Just now, he seemed to have mastered the fledgling form of Sword Dao. He broke through at the last minute and defeated Lin Yuan? At the 7 Prefectures banquet, everyone was shocked. Even Duan Ling Tian's gaze when he looked at Wang Xiong again was filled with seriousness. This Wang Xiong had mastered the fledgling form of Sword Dao, and his strength had increased. This would also be his greatest opponent in this 7 Prefectures banquet in order to obtain the first place. On the other hand, the cold mountain residence of the famous residence was filled with joy. Even the middle-level God Emperor expert leading the cold mountain residence didn't expect Wang Xiong to be able to defeat Lin Yuan. He thought that it would be good enough if he could draw. However, he didn't expect Wang Xiong to master the fledgling form of Sword Dao at the crucial moment and defeat Lin Yuan in one move. Chapter 4069. A breakthrough in battle could happen to anyone, and it was a kind of opportunity for everyone. Wang Xiong's last-minute breakthrough had not only helped him, but it had also helped the cold mountain residents behind him. Now, in everyone's opinion, Wang Xiong not only had a chance to be in the top 3, but he had a chance to be in the first place. With Wang Xiong's strength, even Duan Ling Tian might not be a match for him, right? Many people thought so. There were even people who said what they thought. After all, although Duan Ling Tian had only briefly displayed his strength, according to some middle-level God Emperors, they were not optimistic about Duan Ling Tian's chances. Duan Ling Tian's strength is not a match for Wang Xiong's current strength. My patriarch also said that Duan Ling Tian is most likely not a match for Wang Xiong. As some middle-level God Emperors spoke, a group of people suddenly felt that Duan Ling Tian would definitely be defeated if he went up against Wang Xiong. Duan Ling Tian's strength was at most on the same level as Lin Yuan's. If an ordinary person had said this, others might have doubted it. However, it was not just one middle-level God Emperor who said this. Moreover, they were middle-level God Emperors from different factions. Under such circumstances, no one doubted it. At this time, even the group of prodigies from Chunyang School did not look too good. Of course, the ones with the worst expressions were the group of higher-ups from Chunyang School. Other than Yi Qinfeng, who still looked calm, Lu Fenggu, Zhen Pingfan, and the others did not look too good. They all felt that Duan Ling Tian would not be a match for Wang Xiong. Some disciples from Chunyang School could not help but want to ask Duan Ling Tian, but when they saw Duan Ling Tian's serious expression, they all shut up. At the same time, they also confirmed that Duan Ling Tian would not be a match for Wang Xiong. Even a group of middle-level Emperor God experts said so. This matter is obviously true. What a pity. I originally thought that the Duan Ling Tian would take first place in the 7 Prefectures feast. Yeah, what a pity. Although many people in the Chunyang School were communicating with each other, they were all transmitting their voices to each other. They were afraid that they would irritate the Duan Ling Tian and their elders. After all, it was not a good thing for the Chunyang School. Of course, there were also people who were happy. For example, Ma Qihong from the Ma Qi clan. Ma Qihong glanced at Duan Ling Tian with a brilliant smile on his face. Duan Ling Tian, so what if your strength has improved? So what if I'm still inferior to you? I, Ma Qihong, have no chance of taking first place in the 7 Prefectures Grand Banquet, and neither do you. Now, Ma Qihong was directly mocking Duan Ling Tian through voice transmission, as if he had completely forgotten that even if Duan Ling Tian didn't have a chance to win the first place, he would definitely be in the top 3. When Duan Ling Tian heard Ma Qihong's voice transmission, he was stunned at first. Then he turned his head and looked deeply at Ma Qihong. Even if I can't take first place, I think I have no problem getting into the top 3. Unlike someone who has no chance of getting into the top 3. No, maybe he doesn't even have a chance of getting into the top 5? When Duan Ling Tian reached the end of his sentence, the corners of his mouth curled up into a mocking smile. This caused the smile on the corner of Ma Qihong's mouth to freeze. His expression instantly turned gloomy as killing intent flashed in his eyes. When Duan Ling Tian saw that Ma Qihong had stopped talking, he withdrew his gaze and ignored him. As far as he was concerned, this Ma Qihong was nothing more than a clown. However, Lin Yuan had actually failed to challenge Wang Xiong. This was something that no one had expected beforehand. Even Duan Ling Tian had not expected this. Especially after Lin Yuan and Wang Xiong had fought, he felt that it was more likely that the two of them would end up in a draw. However, he did not expect Wang Xiong to have a breakthrough at the critical moment and master the fledgling sword Dao. His strength had risen to another level, allowing him to defeat Wang Xiong in one fell swoop. Let's go. Since Lin Yuan had failed to challenge Wang Xiong, and Wang Xiong had chosen to rest and did not continue to challenge, the 7 prefectures banquet ranking battle had come to an end. The next round would begin the next day. Wang Xiong was number 3 and Han Di was number 2. He did not have the qualifications to challenge Duan Lingtian. However, after witnessing Wang Xiong and Lin Yuan's strength, Han Di was mentally prepared to withdraw from the top 3. Even if Wang Xiong displayed even more shocking strength later on, he was still numb to it. In this 7 prefectures banquet, the biggest dark horse was Wang Xiong. Time and time again he had refreshed everyone's understanding of him. When Duan Lingtian returned with the Chunyang School's group, it was very quiet along the way. Everyone had a tacit understanding and did not mention anything about what had happened earlier. Even Zhen Pingfan did not send a voice transmission to Duan Lingtian this time. He was afraid that he would give Duan Lingtian too much pressure. As for advising Duan Lingtian to admit defeat if he felt that he was not a match for Wang Xiong, he did not say anything. At this point in the 7 prefectures banquet ranking battle, it was no longer important whether one was injured or not. As for dying, that was impossible. Therefore he did not say much. Everything was up to Duan Lingtian's own wishes. In fact, when everyone returned, the situation of the 7 prefectures banquet had also spread to Chunyang School. The group of decision-makers in Chunyang School, as well as the group of intermediate god emperors, were all silent this time. Although they were a little disappointed. After all, they had previously thought that Duan Lingtian had a chance of winning first place in the 7 prefectures banquet. However, when they realized that even if Duan Lingtian could not win first place in the 7 prefectures banquet, he could at least get into the top 3, they were a little relieved. This was much better than what they had expected at the beginning. In addition, there was also Yang Qinya who was in the top 10. Even if Duan Lingtian only got into the top 3 of the 7 prefectures banquet, their Chunyang School would still be able to get 5 spots this time. 5 spots were enough. Elder Yi, is something the matter? Seeing that everyone from Chunyang School including Zhen Pingfan had left, not only did Yi Chenfeng not return to his residence, but he also followed him to his residence. Duan Lingtian, who had just noticed him, could not help but be stunned. Let's go in first. Yi Chenfeng smiled. Hearing this, Duan Lingtian nodded. At the same time he could not help but think, why did this elder Yi follow me here? To comfort me? That's not necessary, right? Moreover, it was not the first day that this elder Yi knew him. He should not think that he was that weak, right? Duan Lingtian. After entering the courtyard of Duan Lingtian's residence, Yi Chenfeng casually waved his hand and took out a formation plate. He then set up an isolation formation, isolating himself and Duan Lingtian inside. Seeing this, Duan Lingtian's expression became slightly serious. This elder Yi most likely had some secret matter to tell him. Was it about the ultimate spiritual abode? Thinking of this, Duan Lingtian's eyes could not help but light up. Enter the small world in my body and observe the true meaning of the sword principle that I have comprehended from the inspiration I received from the exchange with your master. Although it is not perfect, it might be of some help to you. After all, the sword principle that you have mastered is of the same origin as your master's, and so is it. While Duan Lingtian was looking forward to Yi Chenfeng talking about the ultimate spiritual abode, he did not receive any news about it. Instead he received such words. Regarding this, although Duan Lingtian was a little disappointed, he could not help but smile bitterly. Elder Yi, that is the sword principle that you have mastered. It is not appropriate to pass it on to me, is it? The true meaning of the sword principle was something that affected the improvement of the sword principle. If the level of the sword principle was compared to the character level of the role-playing online games on Earth in his previous life, then the true meaning of the sword principle was the experience used to level up. There is nothing inappropriate about it. Yi Chenfeng shook his head and said, I benefited a lot from the exchange with your master. The true meaning of the sword principle was also inspired by him. It can be said that most of it came from him. Now, it is only natural that I return this favor to you, Yi Chenfeng said matter-of-factly. Moreover, you have seen your current situation. If I am not wrong, you do not have the confidence to defeat Wang Xiong now, right? I don't know if you have hidden your strength before. If not, I am afraid that you have no hope of fighting him to a draw. Even if you have the hope of fighting him to a draw, it will be difficult to defeat him. If that is the case, why don't you observe the sword principle that I have just comprehended? If you can comprehend something from it, it may be of great help to your strength. It had to be said that Duan Lingtian was moved by Yi Qinfeng's words. After a moment, Duan Lingtian took a deep breath and finally gritted his teeth and agreed. Elder Yi, I will not say any sentimental words and I will not say any more. I, Duan Lingtian, will remember this favor in my heart. You don't have to do this. Yi Qinfeng shook his head and said, I just told you that this favor is repaid to your master. When I mentioned you to your master many times, I could see how much he valued you. In his eyes, you are no different from his own son. All right, time is limited. You can enter my small world now. I will demonstrate my newly comprehended sword principle true meaning inside. It is the same sword principle true meaning that you and your master have grasped. Then, with Yi Qinfeng's cooperation, Duan Lingtian also entered his small world. Yi Qinfeng's small world was an empty and barren land. The only things that could be seen everywhere were the sword-shaped stones that were suspended in the sky. These sword-shaped stones were of different sizes. Some were suspended in the void, some were rooted in the barren land, and some were like pillars that pierced through the sky and earth of Yi Qinfeng's small world. While Duan Lingtian was observing Yi Qinfeng's small world, Yi Qinfeng's voice echoed in his ears. I have named this small world, Sword World. Each of these sword-shaped stones in front of you has a sword principle mark that I have left on them. Of course, the sword principle marks on some of them have faded a lot due to the passage of time. However, they all have the sword principle mark. Without the sword principle mark, the stones will automatically turn into dust and cease to exist. Chapter 40-70. All the sword-shaped rocks had sword Dao imprints on them? Duan Lingtian's curiosity was piqued when he heard Yi Qinfeng's words. His eyes immediately fell on a nearby sword-shaped rock. At first glance, this sword-shaped rock looked no different from an ordinary rock carved into a sword. However, when Duan Lingtian carefully looked at it, especially when his divine consciousness enveloped it, he could feel the fierce aura contained in it. At this moment, every sword carved into the rock seemed to reflect the sword Dao's true meaning to his divine consciousness. Every sword strike was different. However, this sword Dao's true meaning did not follow his path, so it was not of much help to him. That is, after a while, Duan Lingtian looked at another larger sword-shaped rock not far away. He could see a dozen lines of words carved on it. The words on it could not be connected into a sentence, but every stroke of the words contained a strong sword Dao true intent. When one's spiritual perception enveloped it, it was as though one could see a sword Dao expert carving these words. Duan Lingtian looked at a few more sword-shaped rocks before he came back to his senses. He came back to his senses because Yi Qinfeng spoke again. Next, I will show the sword Dao's true meaning that I have newly comprehended in my small world. They were all inspired by your master, and the source is no different from the source of the sword Dao that you have mastered. They are different paths leading to the same goal. However, the sword Dao's true meaning that I have comprehended is actually not very helpful to my sword Dao. At least not for the time being. However, I heard your master mention a bold idea. 2 different sword Daos may be able to merge into one in the end. 10,000 methods to one, 10,000 Daos to one. There was such a saying a long time ago. 2 different sword Daos may be able to merge into one in the end. Moreover, according to my and your master's guess, if 2 sword Daos were to merge into one in the end, the power would definitely not be as simple as 1 + 1 = 2. After hearing Yi Qinfeng's words, Duan Lingtian realized that his master, Feng Qingyang, and Yi Qinfeng were discussing the merging of 2 different sword Daos. Wasn't this too bold? Now this was the only thought in Duan Lingtian's mind. After all, even his current sword Dao was strenuous for him to comprehend. If he were to divert his attention to comprehend other sword Daos, he would be powerless to do so. Most importantly, his cultivation still needed to be improved. Time was running out and the pressure on his body was too great. He could not compare to Yi Qinfeng at all. Yi Qinfeng might have already reached a bottleneck in his cultivation, and only needed an opportunity to break through. Therefore he did not need to spend too much time on increasing his cultivation. But he was different. This time, if Yi Qinfeng hadn't said that his newly comprehended sword Dao was from the same source as his sword Dao, he definitely would have declined Yi Qinfeng's favor. This was because if the source of the sword Dao was different from the one he had grasped, it would not be of any help to him in the short term. Even if he had the heart to observe, it would only be a waste of time. Then, as Yi Qinfeng began to display his newly comprehended sword Dao true meaning, a series of afterimages with swords flashed past. Duan Lingtian's eyes were completely attracted. After watching for a while, he saw a familiar figure among them. He is indeed walking the sword Dao of my master and mine. He doesn't need to spend too much time on improving his cultivation. He is just willful and has already begun to comprehend the second sword Dao. Duan Lingtian sighed in his heart. He really could not compare to him. However, after a while, Duan Lingtian's heart was only left with shock. Oh my God! How long has it been? Elder Yi has already comprehended the sword Dao that is from the same source as my sword Dao to such an extent? Moreover, there are many new things mixed into it. This is a sword Dao genius? Now, Duan Lingtian realized that there were many things in Yi Qinfeng's newly comprehended sword Dao that were of great help to him. He even felt that Yi Qinfeng's comprehension might be able to bring his sword Dao to a higher level and step into the next level. In that case, his attainments in sword Dao might even surpass the current Yi Qinfeng. Of course, he also knew that with Yi Qinfeng's current talent in sword Dao, even if he temporarily surpassed him, Yi Qinfeng might catch up later. Elder Ye's sword Dao earlier must have fallen into a bottleneck. Moreover, it is a bottleneck that is even more ridiculous than my bottleneck. Otherwise, with his talent in sword Dao, it is impossible that he has not broken through after such a long time. This time, if I can really bring my strength to a higher level with Elder Ye's help, I will definitely not treat him unfairly. Along the path of sword Dao, Duan Lingtian had actually walked out many things of his own. Previously, when he shared with his master could also comprehend some things. His current sword Dao was following his master's path in the beginning. Later on, most of it was his own comprehension which could be considered his own sword Dao. After a while, Duan Lingtian stopped thinking about it and completely calmed down to observe the sword Dao that Yi Qinfeng displayed. Because they were of the same origin, Duan Lingtian did not expend much effort to observe. Moreover, every once in a while, he would gain a certain level of comprehension and inspiration. Gradually, he really immersed himself in it. He forgot why Yi Qinfeng was displaying sword Dao to him at this time, and also forgot why he was observing Yi Qinfeng's sword Dao at this time. Time passed quietly. In the blink of an eye, a day had passed. Early the next morning, Yi Qinfeng greeted Lu Fenggu and Zhen Pingfan without waking Duan Lingtian. Today's ranking battle shouldn't have anything to do with Duan Lingtian. After all, there is still Han Di behind him. Today it will definitely end with Wang Xiong defeating Han Di. Of course, we can't rule out Wang Xiong directly challenging Duan Lingtian. However, I don't think he will, Yi Qinfeng said. Yi Qinfeng said, so, the two of us will temporarily not go over today? If Wang Xiong challenges Duan Lingtian, I'll bring him over. At this moment, Yi Qinfeng did not know how Duan Lingtian was doing. However, if there was no need, he did not disturb Duan Lingtian since he had not woken up on his own. Moreover, in his opinion, Duan Lingtian would not be able to comprehend too much in just half a day and a night. Lu Fenggu and Zhen Pingfan were not stupid. When they heard Yi Qinfeng's message, they knew that Yi Qinfeng was giving Duan Lingtian special treatment. He intended to help Duan Lingtian at this last moment. If Duan Lingtian's strength could be improved further, it might not be impossible for him to fight Wang Xiong to a draw. As for defeating Wang Xiong, Lu Fenggu and Zhen Pingfan were not the only ones who did not dare to think about it. Even Yi Qinfeng did not dare to think about it. Now, even Yi Qinfeng's greatest wish was that Duan Lingtian could defeat Lin Yuan and fight Wang Xiong to a draw, thus securing first place in this 7 prefectures feast. Duan Lingtian was the first to reach the top, so he had an absolute advantage in this aspect. When the group of people from Chunyang School set off, the others also noticed that Duan Lingtian and Yi Qinfeng were not there. They thought that they had gone ahead of time, but when they arrived, they realized that the two were not there. At this moment, the other higher-ups of Chunyang School had also vaguely guessed something. There was no lack of smart people among the group of prodigies from Chunyang School. Of course, they did not feel good about this. At this point, what's the point of cramming at the last minute? Tomorrow at the latest, Wang Xiong will definitely challenge Duan Lingtian. Yeah, even if Wang Xiong does not challenge Duan Lingtian today, he will definitely challenge him tomorrow. Let's think of something better. Who knows, maybe Duan Lingtian and Elder Yi will bring us some surprises. Although this idea is a little whimsical, we are Chunyang School's disciples. Shouldn't we think of them? When the people from Chunyang School arrived, the people from other prefectures and other forces naturally noticed that Duan Lingtian and Yi Qinfeng were not there. Many people guessed the reason for this. Even more people snorted at this idea. Even the people from Chunyang School felt that this was meaningless, let alone the others. Don't tell me that Yi Qinfeng wants to make Duan Lingtian's strength rise to a higher level in these 2 days? Wishful thinking. If Wang Xiong challenges Duan Lingtian later, even if Duan Lingtian is in seclusion, he will still have to come. However, I think that Wang Xiong will most likely not challenge Duan Lingtian. While many people snorted at the reason why Duan Lingtian and Yi Chenfeng were not there, Ma Qihong from the Machi clan had a mocking smile on his face. Things have already come to this and he's still thinking of cramming at the last minute? Naive. Ridiculous. At the same time, at the Han Mountain residence of the Daming Mansion, the leading intermediate god emperor looked at Wang Xiong. Wang Xiong, what are you thinking? Are you going to challenge Duan Lingtian today? Upon hearing this, Wang Xiong shook his head. I've already thought about it yesterday. I'll challenge Han Di today and Duan Lingtian tomorrow. Do you think I'm afraid that he'll improve in the last 2 days and become the champion of the 7 prefectures banquet? It's not that I can't challenge him today. However, I'm worried that if I change my mind at the last minute, it'll give birth to an inner demon that will affect my future cultivation. Wang Xiong had already decided to challenge Han Di today. If he changed his mind at the last minute, even if others did not say anything, he would not be able to deceive himself. He would think that he was worried that Duan Lingtian would improve greatly in the last day and become a threat to him. Once this kind of fear was born, it would have a significant impact on his future cultivation. He did not want to lose a watermelon after picking up sesame seeds. When the intermediate god emperor from the Han Mountain residence heard Wang Xiong mention the 2 words inner demon, his expression changed slightly. He quickly said, "Just do as you wish." It's impossible for him to improve much in just a day. An inner demon was no joke. Perhaps it might not come. However, if it did, it would be a disaster. In the history of the Han Mountain residence of the Daming Mansion, there was an ancestor who was devoured by an inner demon and died under the heavenly tribulation that he could have easily passed. Chapter 4071. Although Duan Lingtian and Yi Chenfeng were not present, the 7 prefectures banquet continued as usual. Furthermore, on this day the top 10 rankings of the 7 prefectures feast, apart from the final order of the top 3, the rest of the rankings were basically made clear. On this day Wang Xiong advanced to 2nd place after Han Di admitted defeat without a fight. Due to the rules, Lin Yuan could not challenge 2nd place in advance. However, he would definitely replace Han Di in the next round and take 3rd place. There was almost no suspense in this matter. As for the rest of the rankings, they were all out. Yang Qinya and Shimin were definitely the last 2 places. Based on the current situation, Shimin, who was in 10th place, obviously had no intention of competing with Yang Qinya for 9th place. In front of the 2, Luo Yuan was in 8th place, and Ma Qihong was in 7th place. Tuoba Xiu was in 6th place. Yuan Moyu was in 5th place. Lin Yuan was in 4th place. Han Di was in 3rd place. Wang Xiong was in 2nd place. Duan Lingtian was in 1st place. These were the rankings when the 7 prefectures banquet ended at noon. Everyone knew that there would not be much change in the rankings. Now, more people were looking forward to the battle between Wang Xiong and Duan Lingtian the next day. Tomorrow Lin Yuan, who is in 4th place, will definitely replace Han Di and take 3rd place. Wang Xiong will challenge Duan Lingtian. Yeah, if Duan Lingtian wins the battle between Wang Xiong and Duan Lingtian tomorrow, there will be no suspense. However, if Duan Lingtian loses, Duan Lingtian and Lin Yuan will fight for 2nd place the day after tomorrow. I think it's almost impossible for Duan Lingtian to win. Didn't you see that he didn't come today? Moreover, Elder Yi Chenfeng from Chunyang School didn't come either. Duan Lingtian is obviously cramming at the last minute. He did this because he doesn't have the confidence to defeat Wang Xiong or even tie with Wang Xiong. I think so too. In this 7 prefectures banquet, the dark horse Wang Xiong will undoubtedly take 1st place. I wonder who is stronger, Duan Lingtian or Lin Yuan. You'll know the day after tomorrow. Now, Wang Xiong had become the hot favorite to win the 7 prefectures feast this time. There were even people who wanted to place bets for the 1st place in the 7 prefectures feast, but were unable to do so. This was because almost no one felt that Duan Lingtian had a chance of winning against Wang Xiong. As for Lin Yuan, he had already lost to Wang Xiong. Unless Duan Lingtian defeated Wang Xiong and lost to Lin Yuan would not have the chance to challenge Wang Xiong again. For example, after Tuoba Xiu was defeated by Yuan Mou, she no longer had the qualifications to challenge Yuan Mou. Even if everyone knew that her current strength had improved by another level. However, as long as Yuan Mou did not lose to her opponent, she would not have the chance to challenge Yuan Mou again. However, even if Duan Lingtian doesn't win 1st place in the 7 prefectures feast this time, it's certain that he'll be in the top 3. This time, Chunyang School is still the biggest winner. Many people couldn't help but sigh when they thought of the gains of Chunyang School this time. That's right. This time, Chunyang School has 2 people in the top 10. Even if Duan Lingtian only enters the top 3, Chunyang School will be able to obtain 3 places to enter the Sacred Land Mystic Realm. In addition to Yang Chenya's 2 places, there will be a total of 5 places. As for the Hanshan residents, even if Wang Xiong wins first place, there will only be 4 places. It's not even as good as Chunyang School. In this 7 prefectures feast, I wouldn't be too surprised if people like Lin Yuan, Tuoba Xiu Luo Yuan, or Yuan Mou won first place, let alone Duan Lingtian. But Wang Xiong really surprised me. Who isn't? Who would have thought that this 7 prefectures feast would end up being Wang Xiong's one-man show? Up until now, almost everyone's eyes and attention had been focused on the Hanshan residence prodigy Wang Xiong. Everyone felt that Wang Xiong would win first place in this 7 prefectures feast. There was no doubt about it. As for Duan Lingtian, many people had been paying attention to him previously. However, after Wang Xiong displayed his strength, the number of people who were paying attention to him decreased. Naturally, no one would deny that Duan Lingtian was outstanding. However, this was the reality. Even if you were outstanding, as long as someone was more outstanding than you, people would pay more attention to you. This was the reason why the first place was the most popular while the second and third place were the least popular. In fact, the gap between them was not that big. Naturally, Duan Lingtian was unaware that the first place in the 7 prefectures feast had already been determined. Even if he knew, he would not have cared. Since he came from the mundane realm, he had experienced many things that were beyond the imagination of ordinary people. Even the old antiques who had lived for tens of thousands of years in the realms of gods might not have as much experience as he did. This was because the natives of the realms of gods had a higher starting point and spent most of their time cultivating. Their lives were not complicated. For this reason, the natives of the realms of gods were not as resilient as the outsiders who came from the Devata realms. At this moment, Duan Lingtian was fully immersed in comprehending Yi Qinfeng's Sword Dao true intent. This Sword Dao true insight came from the same source as the Sword Dao he'd grasped, and it achieved the same result by different means. So he was able to comprehend it with twice the result with half the effort. His Sword Dao was improving at a rapid pace. After all, his attainments in the Sword Dao had practically stagnated in the past. This was because he felt he had already comprehended what he needed to comprehend. It would be difficult for him to find another path. However, after comprehending Yi Qinfeng's Sword Dao, Duan Lingtian felt like a man who was dying of thirst in the desert finally had water to drink. It seems like you've gained some insights. Yi Qinfeng, on the other hand, was demonstrating his Sword Dao to Duan Lingtian as he watched the changes in Duan Lingtian's expression. A faint smile crept up the corner of his mouth. I'll help you as much as I can. How much you can accept will depend on your luck. Initially, I planned to share my insights with you after the 7 prefectures banquet. However, it seems like I've brought it forward. However, even if you've comprehended my Sword Dao, I'm afraid it won't be difficult for you to defeat Wang Xiong. I only hope you'll be able to tie with him. In that case, the first place in the 7 prefectures banquet will be yours. However, suddenly Yi Qinfeng seemed to have thought of something and shook his head. If you only tie with Wang Xiong and win the first place in the 7 prefectures banquet, those heavyweight ultimate gods forces might not be interested in you. Forget it. Let's leave it to fate. Even if you miss this opportunity with your talent and comprehension, you'll be invited by those heavyweight ultimate gods forces sooner or later. In fact, with Duan Lingtian's talent and comprehension, it would not be difficult for him to join a heavyweight ultimate gods force. In fact, he could even be accepted by them without waiting for them to recruit disciples. However, the problem was that joining them and inviting them were 2 completely different concepts. If he was invited, he could negotiate with them and they would not treat him badly. However, if he joined them himself, there would be no preferential treatment. Being a heavyweight ultimate god and having a large family business, the benefits were out of reach for some of the disciples who had just joined the sect. Moreover, unless they displayed talent and comprehension that surpassed their peers, it would be very difficult for them to enjoy such treatment. The 7 prefectures banquet was now empty. Behind the clouds above the 7 prefectures banquet, the Jade Palace was still suspended in the air. Even when Wang Xiong and Lin Yuan fought earlier, both of them had passed through the clouds and entered the 7 prefectures banquet. The group of Emperor God experts at the 7 prefectures banquet also paid attention to the 7 prefectures banquet, but they did not discover the existence of the Jade Palace. The Jade Palace was like a heavenly palace. Accompanied by the clouds surrounding it, it was like an immortal's paradise. Now, in a courtyard in front of the Jade Palace, there was an old man and a young girl sitting at a stone table. On the other side of the stone table, there was a beautiful woman and a middle-aged man standing respectfully. The old man and the young girl were an old woman and a young girl. Great-grandmother, just tell me, did my brother get first place in the 7 prefectures banquet? The young girl looked at the old woman and asked coquettishly. The old woman shook her head and smiled. You little girl, why are you in such a hurry? Can't you just wait a little longer? If you want to know if he got first place in the 7 prefectures banquet, can't you see for yourself tomorrow? Hearing the old woman's words, the young girl frowned slightly. But, isn't the gap between my brother and Wang Xiong huge? Great-grandmother, why don't you make a move and injure Wang Xiong, or make him have diarrhea so that he can't fight tomorrow or can't use his full strength even if he fights? The young girl's eyes turned as she spoke to the old woman with a crafty expression. When the old woman heard this, she rolled her eyes angrily. If I make a move, wouldn't that be too much of a bully? Moreover, you should know that some things can't be changed carelessly. I haven't punished you for meeting him rashly the last time. Hearing the old woman say this, the young girl instantly pouted her small mouth and said with a pitiful expression, Great-grandmother, didn't I also not tell my brother why I know him? Moreover, I found an excuse. As she finished speaking, a complacent smile appeared on the young girl's beautiful face. With that excuse of yours? The old woman glared angrily at the young girl. In my opinion, there's no need to mention that excuse of yours. Now, perhaps even he himself has some doubts. But some things can't be thought through just because you think it through. In any case, before the time I told you about, you can't meet him face to face. At most, you can only hide in the shadows and watch him like you are now. As the old woman spoke, her tone became a bit harsher. When the young girl heard this, she instantly didn't dare to say anything more, but her pitiful appearance was even more moving. Chapter 4072. After the people from the various mansions and forces returned to their respective mansions, noon finally arrived. It ended earlier today. I'm already looking forward to the 7 mansions banquet tomorrow. Tomorrow Wang Xiong will challenge Duan Lingtian. Although I know Wang Xiong will definitely win, I still want to see Duan Lingtian in action. After all, he's a monster from a Devata realm, and he's not even 3,000 years old. If you didn't mention this, I would have forgotten. Duan Lingtian is only 3,000 years old. As for Wang Xiong, he's more than 8,000 years old. Compared to Duan Lingtian, he has a huge advantage in terms of age. Well, it can't be helped. Why didn't Duan Lingtian be born a few thousand years earlier? Generally speaking, it's not that there aren't any monstrous geniuses around Duan Lingtian's age, but they haven't grown up yet. They haven't even entered the stage of a low-level divine emperor, so they're not qualified to participate in the 7 mansions banquet. Since the people from the various mansions and forces had nothing better to do, they began to gossip. From the beginning to the end, they talked about the 2 main characters of tomorrow. Wang Xiong, Duan Lingtian. As for the others, only Lin Yuan was mentioned occasionally. Moreover, they felt Han Di would most likely admit defeat if Lin Yuan challenged him tomorrow. Time also quietly passed by as they discussed. In just a blink of an eye, night had fallen. In the temporary residence of the people from Chunyang School. In a spacious courtyard, Yang Qinya stood in front of a table. An old man sat behind the table. He was Yang Qinya's master, Yuan Hanjin. Yuan Hanjin sat in front of the table and waved at Yang Qinya with a smile on his face. There's only the 2 of us here. There's no need for you to be so reserved. Qinya can just stand. Yang Qinya looked at Yuan Hanjin calmly and said. Upon seeing Yang Qinya's reaction, Yuan Hanjin did not mind. He knew Yang Qinya's personality had changed after the great incident. At the same time, he did not insist. You did well this time. I'm very satisfied with your ranking in the top 10 of the 7 mansions banquet. My father is very satisfied as well. When we return this time, the Pingxing lineage will spare no effort to nurture you. In addition, my father, who is also your grandmaster, will also apply for resources from the sect to nurture you so that you can catch up to that Duan Lingtian and even surpass him. He's ahead of you now, but that doesn't mean he'll always be ahead of you. At the very least, I think you can surpass him. At that time, you can avenge your childhood friend and kill him. Perhaps at that time, you'll have the ability to kill Long Qingchong, the clan leader of the Tianlong clan. Yuan Hanjin smiled. As soon as Yuan Hanjin finished speaking, Yang Qinya immediately added, I just received news that Long Qingchong is dead. Obviously, Yuan Hanjin didn't expect Yang Qinya to say something like that. His first reaction was to reveal a look of astonishment. His disciple already knew about this? After all, he only found out so quickly because of his father. It was his father, Yuan Pingxing, the patriarch of the Chunyang school's Pingxing lineage, who had personally gone to the Tianlong clan and killed Long Qingchong, the clan leader of the Tianlong clan. His father had done this to prevent Yang Qinya from becoming a wolf, who would kill his master. As expected, he knew. Yang Qinya naturally noticed the shock on Yuan Hanjin's face. At the same time, he was even more certain that Yuan Pingsheng was the one who killed Long Qingchong, the clan leader of the Tianlong clan. His purpose was to cover up Yuan Hanjin's crime. How did you know about this? Yuan Hanjin asked. Master, have you forgotten that I'm from the 10,000 Devil sect? Many people from the 10,000 Devil sect are in the Tianlong clan, right? Yang Qinya asked rhetorically. Realization dawned on Yuan Hanjin when he heard this. For a moment, I did forget about this. In fact, Yang Qinya had rarely contacted the 10,000 Devil sect since his father's death. Moreover, the people he was familiar with from the 10,000 Devil sect who had joined the Tianlong clan had basically all died. The few who did not die had long lost their soul marks in their soul orbs as time passed, and they could no longer communicate with each other. However, Yuan Hanjin did not know about this. Master, do you know about this too? Yang Qinya asked. Just now, Yuan Hanjin acted as if he did not know about Long Qingchong's death. Otherwise, he would not have told Yang Qinya that Yang Qinya would kill Long Qingchong to avenge his father. Of course I don't know. Yuan Hanjin also came back to his senses at this time and realized that his reaction just now was a little excessive. He hurriedly shook his head and said, I just heard you say that he died, so I was stunned for a moment. I really didn't expect that he would die before you killed him. It seems that he has offended many people. Do you know how he died? Yuan Hanjin asked curiously. There was indeed curiosity on his face and in his eyes. However, he did not know that his behavior was a little too pretentious. At least, in Yang Qinya's impression of his master, even if he was very curious about something, he would not show such an expression. I heard that he was killed by force in the Tianlong clan. Yang Qinya said indifferently. Killed in the Tianlong clan? Yuan Hanjin was shocked. Doesn't that mean that the person who killed him did not fear the Tianlong clan's great protective formation? Yes. Yang Qinya nodded. According to my 10,000 Devil sect elders in the Tianlong clan, the Tianlong clan's great protective formation is not something that can be ignored even by a lower god emperor. Only a god emperor or above has the ability to enter the Tianlong clan and kill the Tianlong clan's clan master under the threat of the Tianlong clan's great protective formation. Yang Qinya said. Middle god emperor? Yuan Hanjin raised his eyebrows and a disdainful smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. It seems that the Tianlong clan's clan master Long Qingchong was also a fool. He even dared to provoke a middle god emperor, so he deserved to be killed in his own clan. As his voice fell, Yuan Hanjin looked at Yang Qinya and said, You wanted to kill him to avenge your father, but now that he is dead, do you feel that you have no more goals? When I first heard that Long Qingchong died, I felt that way. Yang Qinya nodded. However, after a while, I remembered that I still have an enemy, Duan Ling Tian. So, I am still very motivated to become stronger. While saying this, Yang Qinya was saying something else in his heart. My goal is you, Yuan Hanjin. Before you, Yuan Hanjin, die, as long as I, Yang Qinya, have a breath, I will not stop my footsteps to become stronger. Of course, although Yang Qinya hated Yuan Hanjin to the core, he did not show it on the surface. This was because he knew that the moment he exposed himself, Yuan Hanjin and his father would definitely make the first move. He was not afraid of death. However, he did not want to die in the hands of Yuan Hanjin and his son. Even if he had to die, he wanted to die in the hands of others after killing Yuan Hanjin and his son. That's good. Yuan Hanjin heaved a sigh of relief when he heard this. I was worried that you would lose your motivation after knowing that the person who killed your father had died. Now that I hear you say this, I'm relieved. Very good. You did not disappoint me. The current Yuan Hanjin had a kind expression on his face. If it was the Yang Qinya of the past, he might have been happy with Yuan Hanjin's encouragement. However, at this moment, there was only hatred for Yuan Hanjin left in the depths of his heart. When he saw Yuan Hanjin's hypocritical attitude, he felt extremely disgusted. Alright, you can go back and rest. Tomorrow, let's see how your enemy is defeated. Yuan Hanjin looked at Yang Qinya and said with a faint smile. It was as though he could not wait for Duan Ling Tian to be defeated by Wang Xiong and not be able to win first place. However, Yang Qinya only replied with a yes, before he left. Would Duan Ling Tian lose? Thinking of this, although Yang Qinya was not very optimistic in his heart, when he thought of Duan Lingtian's calmness and composure when facing Duan Lingtian, he could not help but be slightly shaken. However, it is indeed very very difficult for him to defeat Wang Xiong. Yang Qinya thought to himself. The current Yang Qinya was only thinking of killing Yuan Hanjin and taking revenge for his father. As for Duan Lingtian, as of now he really did not see Duan Lingtian as an enemy. This night was destined to be a sleepless night for most people. As the 7 prefectures banquet gradually came to an end, many people felt a sense of loss. When the 7 prefectures banquet had just started, many people felt that the process of the 7 prefectures banquet was slow and hoped to enter the later stages of the ranking battle as soon as possible. However, now that the ranking battle had really come to an end, they all felt that time had passed too quickly. Or rather, the 7 prefectures banquet had progressed too quickly. Let's go. Early the next morning when the Chunyang school students gathered, they also saw Yi Qinfeng, who they had not seen for a day. They only saw Yi Qinfeng look at everyone, greet them, and then lead the way to the 7 prefectures banquet. Where is Duan Lingtian? Lu Fenggu asked. He did not see Duan Lingtian, and at the same time he also noticed that Zhen Pingfan was not there. However, he was more concerned about Duan Lingtian. As for Zhen Pingfan, he might have already gone there. He will come with nephew Zhen later, Yi Qinfeng said. Hearing Duan Lingtian's words, Lu Fenggu did not say anything more. As long as Duan Lingtian could arrive in time, it was fine. Moreover, if Duan Lingtian really did not have the confidence to secure first place, it did not matter whether he was there or not. Thinking of this, Lu Fenggu felt relieved. Among the other people from Chunyang school, many people thought that Duan Lingtian was going to forfeit. According to the rules of the 7 prefectures banquet, if the challenged person did not show up within 15 minutes, it would be considered as admitting defeat. Duan Lingtian is not here yet? When the people from Chunyang school and the host of the 7 prefectures banquet, Elder Lin Donglai of the Flame Howl sect also arrived, the people from the various prefectures who had yet to see Duan Lingtian looked as if they had discovered a new continent and stared in the direction of the people from Chunyang school. Chunyang school's elder Yi Qinfeng is here. Duan Lingtian is not here. Is he going to forfeit? It should be. I guess he is not confident, so he chose not to come and indirectly forfeited. How disappointing. I originally wanted to see him fight with Wang Xiong. Now it seems that it has become an extravagant wish. Chapter 4073. Many people were surprised that Duan Lingtian did not show up at the 7 prefectures banquet today. Of course, most people thought that Duan Lingtian had given up. Coward. Over at the Machi clan's side, Machi Hong sneered. Even if I was defeated by Wang Xiong, at least I have the courage to face him. Duan Lingtian, you don't even have the courage to face Wang Xiong. You don't deserve to be compared to me, Machi Hong. The current Machi Hong swept away the haze from before. It was as if he had trampled Duan Lingtian under his feet. Although Duan Lingtian did not show up, the battle for the top 10 of the 7 prefectures banquet continued as usual. However, the people in front, even those who were qualified to issue challenges, did not continue to do so. The first battle was between Lin Yuan, the prodigy of the Mystic Jade Mansion's Flame Howl sect, who was temporarily ranked 4th, and Han Di, the prodigy of the Spirit Rhino Mansion's Chi Tian sect, who was temporarily ranked 3rd. Han Di will probably admit defeat, right? Today many people thought that Han Di would admit defeat. However, to everyone's surprise, Han Di did not admit defeat this time. He entered the arena and was only defeated after exchanging 10 moves with Lin Yuan. Of course, he admitted defeat after he was completely at a disadvantage, so he did not suffer any injuries. This Han Di is a smart person. Over at the Chunyang school's side, Yi Qinfeng smiled faintly and said, he basically did not fight before. Now that he's fighting, it's obvious that he wants to show his strength to the people behind him. This way the people behind him won't hold on to him. In fact, Lu Fenggu and the other Chunyang school's higher-ups had already guessed what Yi Qinfeng was talking about. However, that wasn't what they were focusing on right now. Their focus was on Duan Lingtian, who had not entered the ring yet. Although they guessed that Duan Lingtian might really give up as people from the Chunyang school, they still hoped that Duan Lingtian would show up. In addition, some people also noticed that Zhen Pingfan was not there. Some of them believed that the reason why Zhen Pingfan wasn't there was to protect Duan Lingtian. After all, it wasn't safe to leave Duan Lingtian alone there. Some people also thought that maybe Zhen Pingfan would bring Duan Lingtian along with him later. Number 2, please enter. Lin Donglai spoke in a clear voice under the watchful eyes of the crowd at the Seven Prefectures feast. In the next moment, the biggest dark horse of the Feast of the Seven Prefectures, Wang Xiong of the famous prefecture's cold mountain residence, slowly stepped out into the air. He was still dressed in a slightly sloppy manner, with a wine gourd hanging from his waist. As he walked, his body swayed as if he was already somewhat drunk. I challenge number 1, the genius of Chunyang School, Duan Lingtian. Under the watchful eyes of the crowd, Wang Xiong immediately issued a challenge to Duan Lingtian, who was temporarily ranked first in the Feast of the Seven Prefectures. Even though Duan Lingtian wasn't there, Wang Xiong's eyes were still locked in the direction of the people from Chunyang School. His eyes were burning with anticipation. Although everyone present felt that Duan Lingtian was most likely going to give up. However, he felt that Duan Lingtian might not give up. There was no meaning in giving up. Even if he wouldn't be laughed at, it would definitely affect Duan Lingtian's future path to becoming a powerhouse. Not to mention other things, just the inner demons that might appear in the future made it unlikely that Duan Lingtian would choose to give up. On the path to becoming a powerhouse, failure wouldn't necessarily affect oneself. However, if one didn't even have the courage to fight, it would definitely affect one's mentality. Once one's mentality was affected, the inner demons would take advantage of the situation to invade. As Wang Xiong issued the challenge, the crowd instantly went into an uproar. A group of people still felt that it was impossible for Duan Lingtian to appear and that he must have given up. Let's just wait 15 minutes. After 15 minutes, if Duan Lingtian doesn't appear, Wang Xiong will win. I really didn't expect that the battle for the first place in the Feast of the Seven Prefectures would be so boring. I wonder if Duan Lingtian will come tomorrow and compete with Lin Yuan for the second place in this Feast of the Seven Prefectures. Although the top 3 in the Feast of the Seven Prefectures are only competing for the 3 Holy Land Mystic Zones for their respective factions, the individual rewards for second and third place are still somewhat different. Who knows, Duan Lingtian might choose not to come tomorrow and give up. While the crowd was discussing animatedly, time passed quietly. In the blink of an eye, 15 minutes had passed. There's still 15 minutes left. At this moment, the host, Elder Lin Donglai of the Mystic Jade Mansion's Flame Howl sect, looked at the Chunyang School's side and said loudly, "If Duan Lingtian doesn't appear after 15 minutes, it will be considered as admitting defeat." As soon as Lin Donglai said this, many people from the various prefectures and factions felt that his reminder was unnecessary. At this time, Duan Lingtian would definitely not come. Great-grandmother, will Big Brother come? Behind the clouds in the Jade Palace, a young girl looked nervously at the old woman and asked worriedly, "Can't you just continue watching?" The old woman shook her head and smiled, then continued to look at the mirror image in front of her. The mirror image was the scene of the Feast of the Seven Prefectures. The people from the various prefectures and factions could be seen, but the main focus was still on the center of the Feast of the Seven Prefectures. Wang Xiong of the Hanshan residence of the Daming Prefecture was a close-up of the mirror image. Almost as soon as the old woman finished speaking, the eyes of the young girl who had been staring at the mirror image in front of her suddenly lit up. "He's here. Big Brother is here." In the mirror image, a purple figure appeared out of thin air. After he appeared, he directly faced Wang Xiong and looked at him calmly. It was Duan Lingtian. Duan Lingtian's sudden arrival caused a hint of understanding to flash in Wang Xiong's eyes. Just as he had guessed, it was very likely that Duan Lingtian would not come. At the same time, when Duan Lingtian teleported, the crowd was in an uproar. Duan Lingtian is here? Why did he appear at this time? Is he busy with something? In my opinion, he is deliberately mystifying in order to attract our attention. So what if he is here? Even if he is here, he is still no match for Wang Xiong. Although Duan Lingtian's timely appearance was surprising, more people were not optimistic about him. They felt that even if he did not surrender, he would still be defeated by Wang Xiong. He's here. Duan Lingtian is here. On the Chunyang School's side, although most people felt that Duan Lingtian's appearance was useless, they were inexplicably excited. After all, he was the genius of their Chunyang School and represented the face of their Chunyang School. Although it was not shameful to give up without a fight, it was still shameful. Now that he had appeared, even if he was defeated, it would be a glorious defeat. After Duan Lingtian's appearance, Zhen Pingfan also arrived and sat beside Yi Qinfeng. After greeting Yi Qinfeng and Lu Fenggu, he looked directly at Duan Lingtian in the field with a hint of doubt in his eyes. As for what he was doubting, only he knew. Today you will see. At this time Yang Qinya heard the words of his master Yuan Hanjin saying, "Your enemy, although a genius, is not invincible. Among his peers there are still people who can defeat him." Upon hearing Yuan Hanjin's words, Yang Qinya did not respond. He did not show any other emotions, but his heart was filled with disdain. Although Wang Xiong was Duan Lingtian's peer, how old was Wang Xiong compared to Duan Lingtian? An 8,000-year-old young heaven's pride and a 3,000-year-old young heaven's pride, how could they compare? Is here. On the Machi clan's side, Machi Hong frowned slightly when he saw Duan Lingtian. Earlier, when he saw Duan Lingtian was not here, he felt that he was stronger than Duan Lingtian because he did not give up when Wang Xiong challenged him. On the other hand, Duan Lingtian gave up. At that time he felt an inexplicable sense of superiority. But now, that sense of superiority that he had yet to fully enjoy had completely disappeared. Duan Lingtian was here. So what if he's here? He's still going to lose. A sneer appeared on the corner of Machi Hong's mouth. His eyes were filled with disdain when he looked at Duan Lingtian. It was as though he felt Duan Lingtian was not a match for anyone but himself. "Duan Lingtian, I've long heard of your name." Wang Xiong looked at Duan Lingtian solemnly as he said, "An intermediate divine emperor who's not even 3,000 years old from a Devata realm. Although I'm also a divine emperor when I was your age, I'm nothing compared to you." Wang Xiong's words were, in fact, a compliment to Duan Lingtian. However, the others were still shocked when they heard this. Wang Xiong was not even 3,000 years old, but he had already become a divine emperor? Even the group of people from the Han Mountain residence were astonished because they didn't know Wang Xiong. They didn't know that Wang Xiong had become a godly emperor at such a young age. This was because Wang Xiong had only joined the Cold Mountain Mansion 1,000 years ago. Moreover, his performance had always been mediocre, and he had been overshadowed by the other young prodigies in the Cold Mountain Mansion. After all, Wang Xiong had always been concealing his strength and had never shown it to others. "Our battle today has nothing to do with age." Duan Lingtian smiled faintly. "The Seven Mansions banquet is a stage for young prodigies below the age of 10,000. You and I stand at the same height. If you defeat me, you'll be the champion of the Seven Mansions banquet. If you can't defeat me, I'm afraid you'll have to settle for second place." Duan Lingtian smiled indifferently. He did not seem discouraged at all. Even so, no one felt that he was confident in his own strength. They only felt that he was stubbornly holding on. He knew that he was going to lose, but he still cared about his reputation and stubbornly held on. "If I can't defeat you and settle for second place, I'll accept it." Wang Xiong smiled faintly. He did not seem annoyed by Duan Lingtian's words at all. It was as though there was no difference between first place and second place to him. "Since both of you are here, let's begin." Lin Donglai glanced at both of them before he spoke bluntly, interrupting their conversation. As soon as Lin Donglai finished speaking, Duan Lingtian and Wang Xiong's eyes narrowed slightly. However, the eyes of the onlookers lit up immediately, and they straightened their backs. Their reactions were even greater than Duan Lingtian and Wang Xiong. Chapter 4074. Under the watchful eyes of the crowd, Wang Xiong's body glowed with golden light. In the blink of an eye, he seemed to have turned into a golden sun, his body burning with golden flames. Of course, this was not a flame, but a manifestation of the fusion of the law of gold and divine power. On the other hand, although Duan Lingtian's purple robe began to flutter without any wind, he did not have Wang Xiong's mighty aura. He stood there like an ordinary expert. But suddenly, under the watchful eyes of the crowd, a golden light swept across the void like a blade cutting through the sky, cutting through the air and splitting Duan Lingtian into two. This light figure seemed to have appeared out of thin air. In the next instant, under the watchful eyes of the crowd, Wang Xiong's body turned into a shadow and gradually dissipated. On the other side, Duan Lingtian's body also turned into a shadow. First it was split into two, then it quickly dissipated. Whoosh! Before many people had the time to react, the sound of a sword whistling rapidly rang in their ears. In the next instant, there was another sound similar to the burning of the air. Whoosh! 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 Under the watchful eyes of the crowd, Wang Xiong caught up with Duan Lingtian, who had teleported away to avoid his attack. The high-grade divine sword in his hand released a dazzling golden light as he continuously attacked Duan Lingtian. The embryonic form of sword principle that he had just mastered was also displayed at this moment. On the other hand, Duan Lingtian had yet to draw his sword, let alone display his sword principle. Around him the space storm raged. Every time the gray space storm moved, it seemed to cause the void to tremble, directly affecting the space. Wherever Wang Xiong's sword light went, the space storm raged and pushed back, forcefully stopping it. Of course, the crowd was not surprised when they saw this scene. Anyone with eyes could see that Wang Xiong had yet to use his full strength. Perhaps he had not even used half of his skills. Under such circumstances, it was normal for Duan Lingtian to be able to deal with it without drawing his sword. It would be abnormal if he could not. After all, he was the #1 genius of the younger generation in Tunglung province, whom even Han Di, the genius of the Spirit Rhino Mansion's Qitian sect, was ashamed of his inferiority. Whoosh, 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 whoosh. Wang Xiong's sword became more and more frequent and faster. From the initial probing to the next step of fierce attacks, it made people feel as if their gazes were drifting, unable to cope with it. At this time, one could imagine the pressure Duan Lingtian was under. As for Duan Lingtian, when Wang Xiong made his next move, he also made his move. Whoosh! A clear sword cry resonated in the air. The moment Duan Lingtian's prominent grade divine sword appeared, it instantly overshadowed the sword in Wang Xiong's hand. The sword ray that carried a sharp sword chi tore through the air. Not only was it pleasing to the eye, but it also sent chills down one's spine. It was as though one could clearly feel the sharp sword intent contained in the sword. This is the sword Dao? Wang Xiong has only just comprehended the embryonic form of sword principle, but Duan Lingtian has already stepped over the embryonic form of sword principle and grasped the true sword principle. In terms of sword Dao, Wang Xiong can't even catch up to him. Today Duan Lingtian is only a medium divine emperor. If Duan Lingtian was a senior divine emperor, even if his comprehension of the law profundities is not as good as Wang Xiong's, he would still be able to fight Wang Xiong to a draw with his sword Dao. Who knows, he might even be able to defeat Wang Xiong. What a monster. He's not even 3,000 years old, but he already has such achievements. This is unheard of in the history of the 7 prefectures. Genius. A true genius. Although the people present felt that Duan Lingtian had no chance of winning this battle, it did not affect their recognition of Duan Lingtian's strength and innate talent. For a young prodigy who was not even 3,000 years old to reach this stage in the 7 prefectures' grand banquet, it could be said that this was absolutely unprecedented in the history of the 7 prefectures. It's a pity he was born too late. If he was born 1,000 years earlier, he would definitely be the champion of the 7 prefectures' grand banquet this time. That's right. With his innate talent and comprehension, if he's given 1,000 years, his strength will definitely surpass Wang Xiong's current strength. This is fate. Many people felt that it was a pity for Duan Lingtian. They felt that Duan Lingtian did not get to participate in the 7 prefectures' grand banquet at his best age. Otherwise, he would definitely be the brightest star in the 7 prefectures' grand banquet this time. However, although he was still shining brightly, Wang Xiong had overshadowed most of his brilliance. His attainments in the law of metal that he has comprehended are actually so strong. Most importantly, the law of earth that he has comprehended is not weak at all. After exchanging blows with Wang Xiong many times, Wang Xiong gradually revealed a stronger strength. On the other hand, Duan Lingtian had also revealed a step more of his strength. They were in a stalemate all along. During this process, Duan Lingtian had wanted to find Wang Xiong's weakness many times and take the opportunity to push him into a disadvantageous position or even defeat him. However, he did not have the chance to do so. Although Wang Xiong seemed to be attacking crazily, his defense was very good as well. Duan Lingtian could not find any weakness at all. What made Duan Lingtian sigh with emotion was that while he was looking for Wang Xiong's weakness, Wang Xiong was also looking for his weakness. Wang Xiong's rich combat experience did not seem like a native of a plane of gods who was not even 10,000 years old. This Wang Xiong is not that simple. He must have experienced many battles before entering the cold mountain residence in the Daimon's mansion. While Duan Lingtian was guessing like this, Wang Xiong was also extremely shocked. This Duan Lingtian, a young man who's not even 3,000 years old, how can he have such rich battle experience? I used to be a sectless cultivator who grew through battles. Later on, I entered the planar battlefield and killed my way here. It was only after I left the planar battlefield that I entered the cold mountain residence in the Daimon's mansion. Wang Xiong was confident that his combat experience would not lose out to the older generation in the 7 prefectures. He also felt that it was difficult to find a match among his peers. Previously, he had felt that his opponent's combat experience was mediocre. He felt that his opponent relied more on his strength. However, when it came to Duan Lingtian, he felt as though he was fighting against those old monsters who had rich combat experience and were on par with him in the planar battlefield. Duanling Tian had been looking for his weakness all this time. He even had a feeling that once Duanling Tian grasped hold of his weakness, he would most likely be defeated. Is Duanling Tian really not even 3,000 years old? Even if someone from the Devata realm has rich combat experience, how can he have such combat experience at such a young age? Wang Xiong could not figure it out. However, the pressure that Duanling Tian gave him made him unable to continue the stalemate with Duanling Tian. Soon after he showed his strength. I'd like to see what other tricks he has up his sleeve. Today I, Wang Xiong, will defeat him in my strongest form and become the champion of the 7 prefectures grand banquet. With this thought in mind, Wang Xiong, who was still in a stalemate with Duanling Tian, suddenly soared into the sky. His body shone brightly like a blazing sun. On the other hand, Duanling Tian teleported to the distance when Wang Xiong shot up into the sky. He stared at Wang Xiong from afar. His expression turned solemn at this moment. The warm-up was over. Next it was time to determine the victor. At this moment, everyone could see Wang Xiong's determination. Divine energy surged from Wang Xiong's body as he gradually revealed the profundity from the law of metal. The high-grade divine sword in his hand did not move, but the sword light that flickered on it carried a sharp sword intent, giving people a feeling of unparalleled sharpness. Wang Xiong is not going to waste any more time with Duanling Tian and is going to determine the victor? It's obvious. Now that Wang Xiong is serious, how many moves do you think Duanling Tian can take? I think he can take at least 30 moves. After all, he is the #1 prodigy of the younger generation in Tunglung province. Earlier, the stalemate between Duanling Tian and Wang Xiong caused many people to feel unsatisfied, and they were slightly depressed and aggrieved as they watched. Now, when they saw that Wang Xiong was about to explode, the emotions of the crowd were stirred up. Duanling Tian. As the golden light around him soared, Wang Xiong's voice could be heard. The warm-up is officially over. Next, you and I will decide the outcome of this battle. That's what I want. When he heard Wang Xiong's words, Duanling Tian responded calmly. The space storm around him rose, and the prominent divine sword in his hand turned into a sword chi that circled around his body like a protective divine sword. Take my sword. Wang Xiong roared. Then his body swayed and like a golden giant, he stepped across the sky. When his foot landed, the void shook. At the same time, with a deafening roar, a huge golden sword chi flew across the sky like a rainbow and headed straight for Duanling Tian. When the sword was unleashed, the sky seemed to change color. Even Lin Donglai, who was resisting the power, turned serious. What a powerful sword move. Seeing Wang Xiong's amazing sword move, the faces of the crowd turned serious. Great. On the other hand, Duanling Tian spoke out in a timely manner. Wang Xiong shouted out in a low voice. Since you want me to receive your sword strike, then I'll receive your sword strike. Whoosh. Duanling Tian's body swayed and disappeared. When he reappeared, he was behind Wang Xiong. Wang Xiong's sword was slashed in front of him. Just when many people thought that Wang Xiong's sword would miss, I've been waiting for you to teleport. Wang Xiong laughed. Then, as if he had eyes on the back of his head, he pushed his sword backward. The prominent divine sword in his hand emitted a golden light that whizzed toward Duanling Tian. Whoosh. The momentum of this sword strike was even stronger than the one he had slashed out before. It was as if he had used his trump card at the most critical moment. Amazing. What a good timing. Seeing Wang Xiong's move, many of the Emperor God experts' eyes lit up. Some of them couldn't help but praise Wang Xiong. Meanwhile, the group of people from the Pure Sun sect had a nervous expression on their faces as they broke out in cold sweat for Duanling Tian. End of chapter. Chapter 4075. Whoosh. Under the watchful eyes of the crowd, Wang Xiong turned around and swung his sword at Duanling Tian. It was as though he had launched his attack the moment Duanling Tian appeared. The moment Duanling Tian's figure completely appeared, it was already in front of him. Even Elder Lin Donglai of the Flame Howl School, who supported the 7 prefectures feast, tensed up. He was ready to save Duanling Tian's life when he was in danger. As for whether or not Duanling Tian would be injured, he could not guarantee it. As the host of the 7 prefectures feast, he could intervene, but only when the outcome was already decided. Now, although everyone including him, thought that Duanling Tian would not be able to escape from Wang Xiong's sword and would be injured even if he did not die, he still did not intervene. He was afraid that there would be variables. Once there was a variable, not only would his intervention be unnecessary, but it would also affect the fairness of the feast. Just like now. It seemed that Duan Lingtian's life was in danger, but it was not the most dangerous moment yet. If he intervened now, he would be able to stop Wang Xiong. But what if Duan Lingtian had the ability to face this situation? What if he was not afraid of this attack? Although this if was very unlikely, it was still possible. No matter how small the possibility was, it was still a possibility. Therefore, the only thing he could do now was to focus all his attention on the scene. Once Duan Lingtian was really unable to block this sword strike and his life was in danger, he would make a move. At that time, it would be time for him to intervene. Duan Lingtian. At this moment, not only was Lin Donglai vigilant, but even Yi Qinfeng and Lu Fenggu of the Chunyang school were on alert, ready to intervene at any time. Zhen Pingfan's expression was also solemn. His robe began to flutter even though there was no wind. The divine power in his body was ready to burst out at any time. However, in the next instant, the tense nerves of these vigilant people completely relaxed. This was because Duan Lingtian, who had just appeared, was only hit by Wang Xiong's sword, but what was hit was still an illusion. The disappearance of the illusion meant that the original body was unharmed. How is this possible? Wang Xiong's expression changed. Then, as if he had thought of something, his pupils shrank as he subconsciously exclaimed in shock, "Your attainments in space law have actually reached such a level?" In that instant, a word suddenly popped up in his mind: double teleportation. However, Duan Lingtian ignored Wang Xiong's cry of shock. After teleporting to Wang Xiong's side, Duan Lingtian slashed out with his sword. As the sword struck out, a spatial storm wreaked havoc, bringing with it a murderous intent that swept towards Wang Xiong. Wang Xiong also reacted at this time. He hurriedly pushed out his sword horizontally. The sword light exploded and met Duan Lingtian's sword that contained the true way of the sword. In an instant, the power of the two collided. At first, it was incomparably quiet, like cotton hitting cotton. However, in the blink of an eye, a blazing white light suddenly erupted. It was the spatial storm that collided with the resplendent golden power, evolving into another extremely terrifying explosive power. This power, to Duan Lingtian, could be easily destroyed. However, to Wang Xiong, who had acted hastily, it was a little too strong. His entire body was instantly sent flying. However, at the critical moment, a golden armor shadow rose from the surface of Wang Xiong's body. The appearance of the defensive artifact also helped him share part of the injury. Puff. However, even with the defensive artifact sharing the injury, Wang Xiong was still injured, and his injury was not light. Even though he quickly took a few divine elixirs, his face was still as pale as paper. He's injured. Wang Xiong is injured. Wang Xiong's injury caused an uproar. No one had expected that Wang Xiong, who was almost certain to win in their eyes, would be the first to be injured in the battle with Duan Lingtian. However, after Wang Xiong was injured, he used the recoil force to quickly leave and widen the distance between him and Duan Lingtian. When he looked at Duan Lingtian again, his gaze was even more solemn. In fact, from the beginning, Wang Xiong did not have any intention of underestimating Duan Lingtian. However, Duan Lingtian's strength was still beyond his imagination. Duan Lingtian had actually mastered the second teleportation. One should know that the second teleportation could only be achieved after combining many space law ultimacies together. In the Shengang land and other realms of gods, there were very few people, even among the lower-rank emperor gods, who could achieve this. Most of those who had mastered the second teleportation were at least middle-rank emperor gods, and without exception, they were all experts who were skilled in the space law. It's the second teleportation. Duan Lingtian has actually mastered the second teleportation. Due to the sudden change in the situation, in addition to Wang Xiong's injury, most of the people's attention was diverted. Until Wang Xiong stopped and the scene calmed down, the group of Emperor God experts at the scene were the first to come back to their senses. The second teleportation. Duan Lingtian had mastered the second teleportation. What is the second teleportation? At this time, some of the young geniuses were also puzzled. Second phase teleportation is a technique that can only be grasped by experts who are proficient in the laws of space after comprehending the laws of space to a certain extent. In the 7 prefectures, those who have grasped second phase teleportation are all existences above the level of middle god emperor. You should be able to understand now, right? As some of the emperor god experts started to explain, the young geniuses who didn't know what the second instant movement meant started to understand what it meant. The second teleportation was a sign that an expert who was skilled in the space law had comprehended the space law to a certain extent. In the 7 prefectures, experts who were skilled in the space law and had mastered the second teleportation were all middle-rank emperor gods and above. Of course there was an exception now. Duan Lingtian. He had mastered the second teleportation when he was only a middle-rank emperor god. This also meant that Duan Lingtian's attainment in the space law was comparable to the middle-rank emperor gods who were skilled in the space law in the 7 prefectures. What does the second teleportation mean? Isn't teleportation something that can be done over and over again? This is not difficult for anyone who is skilled in the space law to do. Some of the young geniuses were also puzzled by the definition of the second teleportation. Soon, someone explained to them, it is true that teleportation can be done over and over again. However, there is a pause time between the 2 teleportations. If Duan Lingtian had done the second teleportation as you said, do you think he would have been able to dodge Wang Xiong's attack? Wang Xiong's attack still amazes me when I think about it. If Duan Lingtian had not mastered the second teleportation, he would have been the one who was injured, not Wang Xiong. A normal second teleportation has a pause time. However, the second teleportation does not have a pause time. You saw it just now. After Duan Lingtian teleported for the first time, there was only a shadow and he was gone. That is the sign of the second teleportation. The second teleportation, after the first teleportation, even if you saw him, you would not be able to hurt him because he could teleport for the second time without any pause. As someone explained, those who did not know much about the second teleportation also understood the meaning of the second teleportation. They were shocked. Teleportation could be done like this? At the same time they realized where Wang Xiong had fallen. Wang Xiong was injured not because he was weak, but because he did not know that Duan Lingtian had mastered the second teleportation. He thought that he could hit Duan Lingtian with his attack, so he attacked with all his might. As a result, when Duan Lingtian attacked him later, he did not have time to react, nor did he have time to use too much strength to defend himself. Duan Lingtian could be said to have caught him off guard. However, it is unbelievable that a middle celestial emperor could master the second teleportation. In the 7 prefectures, those who could master the second teleportation were all middle celestial emperors and above. Maybe because of this, Wang Xiong did not expect Duan Lingtian to have mastered the second teleportation. At this time, the crowd could not help but exclaim at the strength of Duan Lingtian's comprehension of the law of space. He had even mastered the second teleportation. Previously, I thought that Wang Xiong's comprehension of the law of metal was heaven-defying. In the 7 prefectures, only lower celestial emperors and above could compare to his attainments in the law of metal. However, I did not expect Duan Lingtian's attainments in the law of space to be comparable to his attainments in the law of metal. As one of the 4 supreme laws, the law of space is famous for being difficult to comprehend. Now, Duan Lingtian's comprehension of the law of space should be similar to Wang Xiong's comprehension of the law of metal. However, because the law of space is a supreme law, it is stronger in actual combat. Even if it is stronger, it is not by much. If Wang Xiong was not injured earlier, with just this and the sword principle that he has mastered, he should not be able to overcome the difference in cultivation level and defeat Wang Xiong. He might not even be able to stand shoulder to shoulder with Wang Xiong. But now Wang Xiong is injured and we don't know how serious his injury is. If it is serious, Duan Lingtian might be able to secure first place in the 7 prefectures feast this time. Wang Xiong's injury was out of everyone's expectations. At this moment, even the divine emperors present on the scene were shocked by Duan Lingtian's second teleportation. Even the people from the Pure Sun sect were a little confused at this moment. Duan Lingtian's attainments in the law of space were so high? He had even mastered the second teleportation? This brat did not tell me that he had mastered the second teleportation. Zhen Pingfan exclaimed with widened eyes. I did not expect it either. Yi Chenfeng shook his head at this moment. If I had known, perhaps I would not have needed to spend so much effort. Although there seemed to be some resentment in his words, Yi Chenfeng's lips curled into a faint smile at this moment. This could be considered a pleasant surprise. He had not expected Duan Lingtian to have mastered the second teleportation. End of chapter. Chapter 4076. It was common knowledge that Duan Lingtian was proficient in the law of space. Furthermore, everyone present knew that Duan Lingtian's mastery of the law of space was profound. He was no weaker than any of the high-level celestial emperors in the 7 prefectures who were proficient in the law of space. He was even comparable to some of the lesser god emperors who were proficient in the law of space. However, Duan Lingtian's second teleportation today had shocked everyone, In the 7 prefectures, only a few medium god emperors who were proficient in the law of space could perform the second teleportation. He's not even 3,000 years old, but his comprehension of the law of space has already caught up to mine. I guess I've wasted my tens of thousands of years. When the news of Duan Lingtian performing the second teleportation spread to the various powers in the 7 prefectures, the few medium god emperors who were proficient in the law of space and could perform the second teleportation all expressed similar sentiments. Duan Lingtian has mastered the second teleportation and injured Wang Xiong? It seems that Wang Xiong may not necessarily win today. Could it be that the Pure Sun sect will really be able to obtain 6 slots this time? Continue to contact Chunyang School. We must get a place at all costs. While the various powers in the 7 prefectures were in turmoil, Duan Lingtian was calmly looking at Wang Xiong, who was standing in the distance, allowing him to recover from his injuries. However, Wang Xiong was currently recovering from his injuries while keeping a vigilant eye on Duan Lingtian. At the same time, he was feeling very bitter in his heart. A single slip would cause everlasting regret. He had not expected Duan Lingtian to have mastered the second teleportation, so he was directly injured this time. Moreover, his injuries were not light. Now, with his current strength, even if his old injuries relapsed, it would be good enough if he could use 80% of his strength. Whoosh! Under the watchful eyes of the crowd, Duan Lingtian moved again and headed straight for Wang Xiong. At this time he knew that he had to end this quickly. Otherwise, once Wang Xiong recovered, it would be difficult for him to defeat Wang Xiong again. This was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. So far, everything was going according to his plan. This time, when Duan Lingtian attacked again, a figure leapt out of his body at the right time. It was his Space Law clone. The Space Law doppelganger also held a high-grade divine sword in his hand. His original body and avatar attacked Wang Xiong together. Moreover, as soon as he made his move, a spatial storm raged. The sword was also displayed at the right time. Duan Lingtian is preparing to defeat Wang Xiong in one go. Even a law clone has appeared. Duan Lingtian's law doppelganger isn't much weaker than his main body. With the main body and the doppelganger working together and Wang Xiong injured, even if he uses all of his bloodline power, he'll still be in danger. We'll know as we continue watching. Today, Duan Lingtian might not necessarily win against Wang Xiong. Even if it's a draw, he'll be able to secure first place. Wang Xiong was injured just now. He was at a disadvantage. Seeing Duan Lingtian charging at Wang Xiong, the crowd was shocked. The group of young geniuses discussed animatedly. They no longer thought that Wang Xiong would definitely win like before. Now Wang Xiong's face was pale. It was obvious that he was not as strong as before. In addition, Duan Lingtian had displayed strength that was beyond everyone's imagination. Now that he had both his doppelganger and his main body, his aura was so strong that no one dared to underestimate him anymore. Even if he was only a middle-level divine emperor. It should be known that among the top 10 in the 7-mansion banquet, only Duan Lingtian, Yang Qianye, and Shimin were middle-level divine emperors. The other 7 were all high-level divine emperors. Yang Qianye and Shimin were now the bottom 2 in the top 10. Although Duan Lingtian was only a middle-level divine emperor like them, he had the ability to fight for first place. Their strength was on a completely different level. Duan Lingtian, everyone has underestimated you. At this moment, Wang Xiong was facing Duan Lingtian and his doppelganger. His face froze and his eyes flashed with fear. At the same time, the golden light on his body surged again. A gust of blood chi also rose. It was his blood force. In the next instant he moved. However, he did not charge at Duan Lingtian. Instead, he retreated and attacked at the same time. Swoosh, 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 swoosh. Wang Xiong faced Duan Lingtian and retreated. However, the upper-grade holy sword in his hand did not stop moving. Rays of dazzling golden sword radiance swept out in all directions, trying to block Duan Lingtian's attack. Seeing this, Duan Lingtian raised his eyebrows. Then he exchanged positions with his doppelganger and attacked together. Swoosh, swoosh. 2 rays of sword radiance shot out and intertwined with each other as they attacked together. In just a blink of an eye, the sword radiance shattered Wang Xiong's doppelganger. During this process, everyone could clearly feel the power of Duan Lingtian's doppelganger, and his doppelganger's attack was not as simple as 1 + 1. This scene, as expected, shocked everyone present. The group of god emperors present on the scene was the most shocked. Their eyes were not as sharp as the others. That's a formation? It seems like a simple formation that 2 people joined forces. However, Due to the tacit understanding between his doppelganger and his doppelganger, and the sword Dao true meaning, their combined strength is much stronger than usual. I've encountered many people from the Devata realms and fought with them. I've even seen their doppelganger. However, none of them are capable of this. The sword Dao that Duan Lingtian's doppelganger and his doppelganger are stronger than usual when they join forces through a formation. I didn't expect the sword Dao true meaning would be able to link his doppelganger and his doppelganger together. No wonder powerhouses from the Devata realms would undergo a qualitative transformation once they master the heaven, earth, and heaven Dao. This must be what they're talking about, right? The group of God Emperors was already shocked when they saw Duan Lingtian had mastered the teleportation technique twice. Now that they saw Duan Lingtian's doppelganger joining forces, they were even more shocked. At the same time, when they subconsciously looked at Wang Xiong, they could not help but shake their heads or secretly shake their heads. If Wang Xiong was at his prime, he might have the ability to battle Duan Lingtian, and he might even be able to fight Duan Lingtian to a tie. However, Wang Xiong was currently injured. Moreover, his earlier attack had worsened his injuries. It would be difficult for him to fight Duan Lingtian to a draw, let alone defeat him. I didn't expect this. I didn't expect Duan Lingtian to be so strong. He's much stronger than what he displayed in front of Han Di. He's really good at hiding his strength. Everyone thought Wang Xiong would definitely win. However, it's really unbelievable now. At this moment, the group of God Emperors could already guess who would win even if they did not continue watching. Although Wang Xiong was outstanding, he had lost the initiative due to his misjudgment. Naturally, they knew Wang Xiong's misjudgment was not his fault. After all, no one expected a medium divine emperor to be able to master the law of space's teleportation technique twice. Moreover, even if Wang Xiong was not injured with Duan Lingtian's strength, it would be difficult for Wang Xiong to defeat him. At most, they would be able to fight to a draw. In other words, even if Wang Xiong was not injured due to his carelessness, Duan Lingtian would still be the champion of the Seven Prefectures banquet. When Duan Lingtian and his clone joined forces, not only did the divine emperors present on the scene realize something was amiss, but even the high-ranking officials from the various mansions and forces present on the scene could tell something was amiss. Some of the young prodigies who were more powerful looked at Duan Lingtian with a solemn expression on their faces. Their eyes were filled with shock and disbelief. Duan Lingtian is actually so strong? Han Di was where the people from the Spirit Rhino Mansion's Heaven's Equal sect were. He looked at Duan Lingtian from afar and felt a chill in his heart. Fortunately, I didn't sneak attack him back then. Otherwise, I would have been in deep trouble. Now that Han Di thought about the situation back then, he could not help but rejoice. He's so strong. Lin Yuan and Yuan Moyu's expressions were extremely solemn at this moment. Tuoba Xiu, who had always been aloof, looked at Duan Lingtian with a hint of surprise and indescribable splendor. As an outstanding woman, Tuoba Xiu's standards were naturally higher than ordinary women's. She did not think much of the men around her, who were younger than her, even if some of them had pursued her before. This was the first time a man had entered her eyes. It should be known that although Wang Xiong and Lin Yuan's performances were strong, they had not caught her eye. However, Duan Lingtian had caught her eye for two reasons. First, he was not even 3,000 years old. His talent and comprehension skills were extraordinary. She felt ashamed of her inferiority. Second, Duan Lingtian was stronger than her. Third, Duan Lingtian was good-looking. Of course, although Tuoba Xiu looked at Duan Lingtian in a different light, she only had a slightly favorable impression of him. She did not have any deep feelings for him. How is this possible? On the Machi family's side, Machi Hong's expression was extremely ugly. He had never dreamed that Duan Lingtian's strength would be so strong. Although Duan Lingtian had defeated him back then, his strength was clearly not much better than his. Did he hold back? He actually held back. He had held back and defeated him so easily? At this moment, Machi Hong felt a sense of humiliation. On the Chunyang school's side, the group was also pleasantly surprised. They had thought that Duan Lingtian would lose without a doubt. They did not expect that Duan Lingtian would give them such a big surprise in the end. Even Yi Qinfeng was shaking his head gently at this moment. He had shown Duan Lingtian's Sword Dao true meaning in order to let Duan Lingtian's Sword Dao reach a higher level, break through the bottleneck and enter the next realm. However, based on the current situation, Duan Lingtian's Sword Dao had not broken through the bottleneck and entered the next realm. Did he work for nothing? If he had known that Duan Lingtian had such strength, he would not have been in such a hurry to show Duan Lingtian's Sword Dao true meaning. However, Yi Chenfeng did not know that Duan Lingtian's original body and clone could cooperate to such an extent because of the inspiration he had received from comprehending the sword Dao true meaning that he had displayed in the past 2 days. Chapter 4077. In the arena, Wang Xiong saw how Duan Lingtian had defeated his attack. When he saw how Duan Lingtian and his doppelganger worked together, he felt helpless. He could see it too. If he had not been injured, if he had been able to display his full power, even if Duan Lingtian had mastered the second teleportation, he might have been able to fight Duan Lingtian to a draw. But now he was injured and his injuries were not light at all. He could only display 70 to 80% of his power. Now that he had fought with Duan Lingtian, he could only unleash 60% of his strength at most due to his injuries. However, I did not lose unjustly. When he thought about how Duan Lingtian had injured him using the second teleportation, which had never been publicly displayed, Wang Xiong felt that he had not lost unjustly. Perhaps Duan Lingtian had used this trump card just to show it to him. I admit defeat. Hence, after he had been injured further, the middle-level Emperor God from the Han Mountain residence reminded him through telepathy. Thus, Wang Xiong admitted defeat in a timely manner. That was because there was no point in continuing. Duan Lingtian had already displayed his power. Most importantly, Duan Lingtian was not injured at all. As for Wang Xiong, his injuries were not light. Although Wang Xiong's admission of defeat was not out of everyone's expectations, it still shocked everyone. After all, it was completely different from what they had imagined. No one had expected Duan Lingtian, whom they had not thought highly of, to be able to defeat Wang Xiong. Of course, although they knew that they had guessed wrongly, after witnessing Duan Lingtian's power and hearing the explanation of the Emperor God, no one felt that Duan Lingtian had defeated Wang Xiong because of luck. According to our ancestor, even if Wang Xiong was not injured, the best result would be a draw with Duan Lingtian. It would be impossible for him to defeat Duan Lingtian. Yes, our ancestor said the same thing. My ancestor said that even if Wang Xiong wasn't injured, Duan Lingtian still had a high chance of winning. Duan Lingtian's attainments in the laws are slightly stronger than Wang Xiong's. His nomological avatars are also stronger than Wang Xiong's bloodline powers. Furthermore, he has grasped Sword Dao. Even if his cultivation level is lower than Wang Xiong's by a realm, he can close the gap and even surpass it. The young geniuses present didn't believe the words of ordinary people. However, they had no choice but to believe the words of an Emperor God expert, especially a Middle Emperor God expert. Moreover, even if they were not as experienced as Emperor God experts, they were not blind. They had seen the power that Duan Lingtian had displayed with their own eyes. Could not be fake. After Wang Xiong admitted defeat, the golden light on his body completely retracted. At the same time he looked at Duan Lingtian, whose spatial storm had dissipated, and asked with a bitter smile, "Duan Lingtian, was the strength you just displayed your full strength?" Following Wang Xiong's question, the entire place fell into dead silence. At this moment they suddenly thought of the same question. Had Duan Lingtian displayed his full strength just now? One should know that before this, they had all subconsciously thought that Duan Lingtian had displayed his full strength just now. Even the group of Emperor God experts thought so. As a result, now that Wang Xiong had asked this question, the group of Emperor God experts all focused their attention on Duan Lingtian. Faced with Wang Xiong's question and everyone's gaze, Duan Lingtian said calmly, "Almost full strength." Indeed, almost full strength. This was because he had not used the way of control. He had only displayed the embryonic form of the way of control. Of course, if he had not improved in the past 2 days and had not found a way for his original body and nomological avatars to work together perfectly through the sword Dao that Yi Chenfeng had displayed, even if he had displayed the way of control, he might not have been as strong as what he had just displayed. Almost full strength? Hearing this, Wang Xiong was stunned at first. Then he said bitterly, "That means you have not used your full strength?" "All right. I understand." Then Wang Xiong turned around and left in a lonely manner. Those who were looking at his back saw the bitterness that flashed across the corner of his mouth when he turned around. After a short moment of dead silence, the rest of the people were also in an uproar. Duan Lingtian had not used his full strength just now? Everyone, including the group of Emperor God experts, was shocked. Even Lin Donglai, who was in charge of hosting the 7 prefectures banquet, looked at Duan Lingtian with a strange light in his eyes. It was as if he could not wait to abduct Duan Lingtian to the profound Jade Mansion's Flame Howl sect. Who would have thought that the first place of the 7 prefectures banquet would be won by Duan Lingtian in the end? Fortunately, someone opened a bet yesterday and I ignored it. Otherwise, I would have lost miserably today. Who would have thought of this result? Just like that, the first place of the 7 prefectures banquet fell into Duan Lingtian's hands. When Duan Lingtian returned to Chunyang School, many Emperor God experts from the various prefectures and major forces congratulated Yi Qinfeng and Lu Fenggu, who were leading the group from Chunyang School. The atmosphere at Chunyang School was jubilant. Even the great Ming Mansion's Han Mountain residence was not as lifeless as he had imagined. On the contrary, the Machi clan, which was located near the Pure Sun sect, seemed to be in a gloomy mood. After all, the relationship between the Machi clan and the Pure Sun sect had been severed ever since Yi Qinfeng entered the Machi clan and killed the Machi clan's Golden Throne elder, Machi Ju. Now that they had personally witnessed someone from Chunyang School winning the 7 prefectures banquet, the Machi clan was naturally in a bad mood. Let's go. Machi Yuning, the leader of the Machi clan, was the first to stand up and leave with the rest of the Machi clan. The members of the Machi clan were also the first to leave. Machi Hong walked among the group of people from the Machi clan. Ever since Duan Lingtian returned to Chunyang School, he had not looked at Duan Lingtian. It was as though he was afraid of Duan Lingtian's mocking gaze. After all, he had mocked Duan Lingtian many times before this. However, in the end, Duan Lingtian had won first place in the 7 prefectures banquet. It could be said that this was a slap to his face. Of course, not everyone from Chunyang School was happy that Duan Lingtian had won first place. Although Yuan Hanjin, the elder from Ping Xing's branch and Yang Qinya's master, had a smile on his face, his heart was extremely cold. Duan Lingtian is actually so strong? He has an indirect enmity with Qinya. He might target Qinya in the future. Will he target me while targeting Qinya? At this moment, Yuan Hanjin vaguely felt a sense of danger. On the other hand, although Yang Qinya glanced at Duan Lingtian a few more times, his expression remained calm. However, there was a hint of surprise in the depths of his eyes. The strength that Duan Lingtian had displayed was also something that he did not expect. Duan Lingtian followed the Chunyang School group and left the 7 prefectures banquet. When he returned to the temporary residence of the people from Chunyang School and entered his courtyard, 2 figures followed him almost at the same time. They were none other than Yi Qinfeng and Zhen Pingfan. Duan Lingtian, when did you comprehend the second teleportation? Zhen Pingfan stared at Duan Lingtian and asked. He had been wanting to ask this question for a long time. Also, your true body and your law clone can actually work together in the form of a formation. How did you do that? These 2 points were what Zhen Pingfan was most curious about. Yi Qinfeng, on the other hand, did not ask Zhen Pingfan anything because Zhen Pingfan's question was also what he wanted to ask. The second teleportation I did comprehend it some time ago. Duan Lingtian was not particularly surprised by the appearance of these 2 people. Yi Qinfeng was not too surprised, but Zhen Pingfan had long since seen through his gaze and posture as if he wanted to rip him apart. As for the collaboration between my true body and my law clone, it's all thanks to the help that Elder Yi has provided me over the past 2 days. I comprehended the true meaning of the way of the sword that Elder Yi shared with me. Although it did not allow my way of the sword to reach a higher level, it allowed my original body and my law clone to work closely together and display extraordinary strength. As for how strong it is exactly, you 2 elders have seen it for yourselves. Duan Lingtian said. Hearing Duan Lingtian's words, Yi Qinfeng breathed a sigh of relief. In that case, he had not wasted his efforts over the past 2 days. Masters Junior Yi, when will you share your sword Dao with me? Zhen Pingfan looked at Yi Qinfeng and asked with a burning gaze. Yi Qinfeng glanced at him indifferently. Haven't you already observed it several times? Until now, you have not even comprehended the embryonic form of the sword Dao, which means that you are not suitable to comprehend the sword Dao. Hearing this, Zhen Pingfan still said somewhat unwillingly, forget about the sword Dao that you have comprehended before. I'm more interested in the sword Dao that you shared with Duan Lingtian. The sword Dao that Yi Qinfeng shared with Duan Lingtian was inspired by Duan Lingtian's master. He knew this. In his opinion, Yi Qinfeng's sword Dao was not suitable for him, but it did not mean that other people's sword Dao was not suitable for him. At this moment, Yi Qinfeng shook his head and rejected Zhen Pingfan's offer. If it's my own sword Dao, I can share it with you. However, the sword Dao that I shared with Duan Lingtian was inspired by his master. I can't share it with you without his master's permission, Yi Qinfeng said. Yi Qinfeng's words did not dissuade Zhen Pingfan. Zhen Pingfan immediately looked at Duan Lingtian and said with a grin, Duan Lingtian, why don't you tell your master about it? I remember you said your master has left a law avatar in the Devata realm so you can communicate with him with your law avatar at any time, Duan Ling Tian said with a smile. Duan Ling Tian did not reject Yi Qinfeng's suggestion. After he spoke to his master through his law clone in the solitary destructive heaven, he looked at Yi Qinfeng and nodded. Elder Yi, my master has no objections. Junior Uncle Yi, did you hear that? Duan Lingtian's master has agreed. Zhen Pingfan looked at Yi Qinfeng with bright eyes. I'll show it to you when we return. Yi Qinfeng said indifferently, the Seven Mansions banquet should officially end tomorrow. If it ends tomorrow, we'll return the day after tomorrow. There are still some things that we need to do. Yi Qinfeng glanced at Duan Lingtian after he finished speaking. Chapter 4078. Duan Lingtian's eyes lit up when he heard Yi Qinfeng's last sentence. He wouldn't forget the fortuitous encounter that he had a chance of obtaining after he returned from the Seven Prefectures Grand Banquet. Yi Qinfeng was going to look for Ping Sheng's ancestor Yuan Pingsheng, to ask for 2 spots to enter the god's abode that Yuan Hanjin Yang Qinya had entered. Yang Qinya's performance before the Seven Prefectures feast was mediocre. In Chunyang school he could only be considered an above-average genius. He was not as good as many people. However, Yang Qinya's performance at the Feast of the Seven Prefectures had astonished everyone. There were only 3 people who made it into the top 10 of the Seven Prefectures feast with the cultivation of a middle-level god emperor, and he was one of them. It was obvious that there were many benefits to entering the god's abode alive. Due to this reason, Duan Lingtian's thoughts began to run wild. Even defeating Wang Xiong today was not as good as this moment. The biggest reward of defeating Wang Xiong and taking first place in the Seven Prefectures feast was to obtain 4 spots for Chunyang School to enter the secret territory of the Holy Land. With this, the possibility of Chunyang School having a high-level god emperor would be greater. As for the personal reward, it might be good for ordinary young prodigies, but for Duan Lingtian it was not tempting at all. It was just some non-ultimate emperor-level divine pills. The other things were not of much use to him. He could only exchange them for divine crystals. There's nothing else. We'll be leaving now. Yi Qinfeng said goodbye to Duan Lingtian and then left with Zhen Pingfan. As Zhen Pingfan left, he did not forget to praise Duan Lingtian through voice transmission. Duan Lingtian, well done this time. From today onwards, your name will no longer be limited to the 7 prefectures. Although the 7 prefectures were filled with god emperor forces, the 7 prefectures feast was just a relatively remote place to the godly venerable forces outside. It lacked resources and rarely produced godly venerable experts. Becoming famous in the 7 prefectures wasn't a big deal. Of course, Duan Lingtian had realized this a long time ago, and because of this he had never felt that he was that great. Moreover, in his opinion he was still too weak. He didn't even have the ability to find his wife. After Yi Qinfeng and Zhen Pingfan left, Duan Lingtian sat cross-legged on his bed, closing his eyes to rest. At the same time, a figure flashed through his mind. The sword came out like a dragon, sometimes erratic, sometimes fierce, completely attracting Duan Lingtian's attention. Wanting to rely on the sword Dao true intents shared by Elder Yi to break through to the next realm is ultimately somewhat difficult. Looks like I still have to trouble Master for a while. Duan Lingtian's time clone was in the heavenly palace of the solitary destructive heaven in the Devata realm so he could meet with his master, Feng Qingyang, at any time. With this thought in mind, Duan Lingtian's time clone immediately went to look for Feng Qingyang's time clone. When Feng Qingyang learned about Duan Lingtian's situation, he smiled faintly. I didn't expect you would benefit from my exchange with Brother Yi. For the next period of time, you can stay here with me. I'll also show you my sword Dao comprehension later on, which you haven't come into contact with yet. It shouldn't be a problem for me to help you break through to the next realm. However, at this moment Feng Qingyang seemed to have recalled something. His expression turned solemn as he said, although you have a shortcut, I still hope that you can break through the bottleneck on your own. It's best if you rely on your own comprehension. Otherwise, once you break through on the path that others have taken and reach the next level of Sword Dao, your path may become much more difficult. What's best for you is what's best for you. What's best for you to use as a reference. If you use it directly, it's impossible for you to compare with others. In this aspect, there's no possibility of you surpassing your master. Feng Qingyang's warning caused Duan Lingtian's expression to turn solemn. At the same time, he vaguely realized that the reason his master had not interfered too much with his Sword Dao comprehension in the past was definitely because he wanted him to walk his own path. Feng Qingyang's next words confirmed this point. In the past, after I took you in, I rarely interfered with the direction of your sword Dao because I hoped you would walk your own path. However, since you're eager to become stronger and I'm not a pedantic person, I only hope that in the end, it won't affect the path that belongs to you. Feng Qingyang sighed. Soon after, Duan Lingtian's time clone stayed with Feng Qingyang. Apart from comprehending the time law, he also observed Feng Qingyang's sword Dao. The sword Dao was similar to the profundities from the laws. Once one comprehended it, one would be able to share it with the original body. Although the law clone was only a clone, it was still a part of the original body's soul. Apart from sharing the body and memories, the original body would also be able to receive the comprehension of the law clone. This was one of the advantages of not being a native of a realm of gods. In the profound Jade Mansion. At the Seven Mansions banquet. Early in the morning, as usual, everyone had already arrived. Duan Lingtian had also arrived with the rest of the people from Chunyang School. However, he did not stand at the front today. Instead, he sat cross-legged among the prodigious disciples from Chunyang School with his eyes closed. No one knew if he was cultivating or resting. When the people from Chunyang School saw Duan Lingtian sitting like this, many of them wanted to talk to him, but they did not disturb him. At this moment, Duan Lingtian was surrounded by the people from Chunyang School, but he was still the center of attention. Duan Lingtian. He's ranked first in the 7 prefectures feast. This time, Chunyang School obtained 6 spots to enter the Saint Land secret zone. Comparisons are odious. We don't even have a single spot. However, Chunyang School has 6 spots. Chunyang School, aren't they afraid of dying from overeating? While everyone's attention was on Duan Lingtian, Elder Lin Donglai of the Flame Howl sect, who was the host of the 7 prefectures feast, said unhurriedly, "Today we'll continue to challenge the top 10 in the 7 prefectures feast." When everyone heard Lin Donglai's words, they shifted their attention away from Duan Lingtian. Naturally, some of them were still staring at Duan Lingtian reluctantly. It was as though they were curious how a young man who was not even 3,000 years old could be so powerful. Did he have a fortuitous encounter? Some of them were even greedy. Some of them thought so too, but they were not greedy. They felt that even if Duan Lingtian had a fortuitous encounter, they might not be able to get it. It might not be suitable for them. After Lin Donglai spoke, no one in the top 10 challenged him. Even when it was Tuoba Xiao and Yuan Moyu's turn, they did not want to challenge Han Di, who had fallen to 4th place in the previous round. In the previous round, Han Di had shown his strength in his battle with Lin Yuan. They were not confident that they could defeat Han Di. At most, they would be able to tie with him. Under such circumstances, there was no point in challenging him. Most importantly, there was a slight difference in the individual rewards received by the top 3 in the top 10. The difference between the 4th and 6th place was not that big. It was only after the 7th place that the difference became bigger. Due to this reason, when it was Lin Yuan's turn to challenge Duan Lingtian, he did not challenge Duan Lingtian after he glanced at the people from the Pure Sun sect with a complicated gaze. Duan Lingtian's strength was stronger than Wang Xiong's. He was slightly weaker than Wang Xiong. If he fought Duan Lingtian, he was destined to lose. Granduncle. When Lin Yuan left the stage, he did not forget to send a voice transmission to Lin Donglai. The family wants to try their best to rope Duan Lingtian into the family. Even if they have to pay a certain price. Those people are very interested in him. Lin Donglai's eyes narrowed slightly when he heard Lin Yuan's voice transmission. He naturally knew what Lin Yuan meant by those people. It was none other than the ultimate god patriarchs in the family. Duan Lingtian was so outstanding that even the ultimate god patriarchs were interested in him? Although he had thought that the family would ask him to help rope in Duan Lingtian, he did not expect that even the ultimate god patriarchs were paying attention to Duan Lingtian. You should know that I can only do my best in this matter. Lin Donglai looked at Lin Yuan's back and said through voice transmission, I'm afraid Duan Lingtian isn't the only one who has caught our attention. He has also caught the attention of other ultimate god forces. Moreover, the Flame Howl sect has sent people to investigate Duan Lingtian's experience in the Shengang land. He has only joined one family, which is the Linghu family, a god-emperor family in Tunglung province. However, he was forced to join by his previous sect. Judging from his choice, he probably doesn't have much influence in the family. You also know that the family's influence is inferior to the sect's influence in many aspects. Lin Donglai said. Granduncle, don't be nervous. Lin Yuan smiled faintly when he heard Lin Donglai's words. The family only asked you to help rope in Duan Lingtian. They didn't give you a mission to rope in Duanling Tian. If Duanling Tian is so easy to rope in, I'll do it myself. Lin Donglai heaved a sigh of relief when he heard Lin Yuan's words. If that was the case, then there was no pressure. I've already invited him. Whether he agrees or not has nothing to do with me. I'll try my best. With Lin Yuan's abstention, the top 10 rankings of the 7 prefectures banquet were finalized. First, Duanling Tian from the Chunyang School in Tongleng Province. Second, Wang Xiong from the Hanshan residence in the Daming Prefecture. Third, Lin Yuan from the Flame Howl sect in the Mystic Jade Mansion. Fourth, Han Di from the Qi Tian sect in the Consonance Prefecture. Fifth, Yuan Moyu from the Howl sect in the state of Qing. Sixth, Tuoba Xiu from the Yuan clan in the Underworld Prefecture. Seventh, Machi Hong from the Machi clan in Tongleng Province. Eighth, Luo Yuan from the Autumn Leaf sect in the Heavenly Stellar Prefecture. Ninth, Yang Qinya from the Chunyang School in Tongleng Province. 10th, Shimin Longxiang from the Taowu Mountain Villa in the state of Qing. Chapter 4079. In this 7 prefectures grand banquet, young prodigies from all 7 prefectures had made it into the top 10. Among them, Tongleng Province had the most experience. Tongleng Province had 3 people in the top 10. Next was Qing State Prefecture, which had 2 people in the top 10. The other 5 prefectures had only 1 person in the top 10 each. Tianjin Prefecture and Underworld Prefecture put in so much effort to nurture one prodigy. Is this considered a success or a failure? They had high hopes for the 2 of them to make it into the top 3, but they only managed to get 2 places each. Many people lamented as they looked at Tianjin Prefecture and Underworld Prefecture. I think it's a success. I remember that in the last 7 prefectures grand banquet, no one from Tianjin Prefecture or Underworld Prefecture made it into the top 10. Someone said. I think it's a success too. Someone else chimed in. On the other hand, the Heavenly Star Manor and Underworld Manor's middle-level Emperor gods didn't show any joy on their faces, but many of them were clearly smiling. Although their results were worse than they had expected, it was still acceptable. There were no 3 places, only 2 places, they would just have to distribute them later. 2 out of the 3 forces was better than none. This time, Tongleng Province is too scary. 3 of them made it into the top 10. Especially Chunyang School. One of them not only made it into the top 3 but he also took first place. In the history of the 7 prefectures grand banquet, there have been cases where 2 people from one force made it into the top 10. However, there has never been a case where 2 middle-rank emperor gods from one force made it into the top 10 at the same time. Duanling Tian and Yang Qinya can be said to be unprecedented in this regard. If you didn't mention it, I would have forgotten. Duanling Tian and Yang Qinya are only middle-rank emperor gods. An Shimen from Taowu Mountain Villa in Qing State Prefecture is also a middle-rank emperor god. There are 3 middle-rank emperor gods in the top 10 of the 7 prefectures grand banquet this time. I remember that in the last 7 prefectures grand banquet, none of them were middle-rank emperor gods. Is the current high-level deity emperor of the 7 prefectures too weak, or is the middle-level deity emperor stronger? I feel that the middle-level divine emperors of our 7 prefectures are much stronger. We have all witnessed the strength of these 3 middle-level divine emperors. Not to mention Duanling Tian, even Yang Qinya and Shimen are almost as strong as a high-level divine emperor. This is truly an era of talents. In this 7 prefectures feast, the one who had the most limelight was undoubtedly Duanling Tian. Previously, before the battle between Duanling Tian and Wang Xiong, everyone's attention was on Wang Xiong. But now it had all shifted to Duanling Tian. As for Wang Xiong, very few people paid attention to him. The winner takes all, nothing more than this. Apart from Duanling Tian and Chunyang School, Yang Qinya and Shimen, who were at the bottom of the top 10, were also in the limelight. It was very rare for 2 medium divine emperors to enter the top 10 of the 7 prefectures feast. They were receiving even more attention than Tuoba Shi and Luo Yuan. They felt that it was natural for Tuoba Xiu and Luo Yuan to enter the top 10. After all, they were geniuses nurtured by the entire prefecture. They were not as rare as Yang Qinya and Shimen. Congratulations, Elder Yi. Congratulations, Elder Lu. When the top 10 of the 7 prefectures feast had been decided, the god emperors of the various prefectures congratulated Yi Qinfeng and Lu Fenggu. Those who had congratulated them the previous day were not stingy with their words of congratulations. Of course, at this time Yi Chenfeng and Lu Fenggu had also received many messages asking if Chunyang School was planning to give up 1 or 2 spots in the Holy Land secret territory. This time, Chunyang School had obtained 6 spots, so it was indeed a surplus. Even Yi Chenfeng and Lu Fenggu themselves thought so. However, they did not express their opinion. They only said that this matter would be decided by the decision-making team of Chunyang School. It was not something they could decide with just a few words. Elder Yi, Elder Lu might not be able to make the decision, but you can, right? With your strength, who in Chunyang School would dare to go against you? Someone said to Yi Chenfeng through voice transmission. Yi Chenfeng's strength was now well known. Very few people regarded him as a middle god emperor. They all regarded him as a high god emperor. A middle god emperor with the strength of a high god emperor. Duan Ling Tian, congratulations. 3 congratulatory voices resonated in Duan Ling Tian's ears. Duan Ling Tian was not surprised to hear the last 2 congratulatory voices. One was Wang Xiong from the Cold Mountain residence, and the other was Shimin Longxiang from the Green State Prefecture's Taowu Mountain Villa. When the 2 of them congratulated him, he was at most slightly surprised. The first to congratulate him was Tuoba Xiu from the Yuan family of the Underworld Prefecture. Her pleasant voice was filled with kindness. Thank you. Although Duan Ling Tian felt that he was not familiar with Tuoba Xiu, he still replied to her politely. At the same time, he paused for a moment before adding, on the way here, I heard from Elder Yi of the Pure Sun sect that there are some Emperor God experts nearby. These Emperor God experts have not appeared in the vicinity for a while. I don't know if they are from the Underworld Prefecture or the Li sect of the famous prefecture. Duan Ling Tian took the opportunity to mention this to Tuoba Xiu because she had expressed her kindness to him. Otherwise he would not have told Tuoba Xiu about this. To put it bluntly, even if those Emperor Gods had come for Tuoba Xiu, it had nothing to do with him. Thank you for the reminder. Tuoba Xiu's voice sounded again. This time it was much gentler. We have many people here. I will be fine. You don't have to worry. Duan Ling Tian was speechless when he heard Tuoba Xiu's words. What am I worried about? Am I worried? I was just casually mentioning it to you. When he realized that Tuoba Xiu seemed to have misunderstood Duan Ling Tian, he did not say anything else. He was afraid that he would be misunderstood again if he opened his mouth. If that happened, he would not be able to clear his name even if he jumped into the Yellow River. The 7 prefectures' grand banquet ended just like that. Duan Ling Tian and the rest of the people who ranked in the top 100 in the 7 prefectures' grand banquet received their individual rewards. As for the top 10 spots in the 7 prefectures' grand banquet to enter the Saint Land secret zone, it had nothing to do with them. It was a reward for the forces behind them. To put it bluntly, they were merely chess pieces for the various forces in the 7 prefectures to compete for the spots to enter the Saint Land secret zone. The reason they were allowed to participate in the 7 prefectures' grand banquet was to distribute the spots to enter the Saint Land secret zone. Let's go back now and prepare. We will return to Tunglung province in an hour. At this moment, Lu Fenggu said to Duan Ling Tian and the others before the crowd dispersed. Duan Ling Tian was stunned when he heard this. Did they not say they would return the next day? The others were shocked as well. They thought they would return the next day because Lu Fenggu had said they would only return the next day if the 7 prefectures' grand banquet ended today. Lu Fenggu seemed to have noticed the confusion in everyone's eyes. He said, it's still early. There's still more than 2 hours before noon. There's no need to stay here any longer. Moreover, Lu Fenggu looked up at the sky when he reached the end of his sentence. I'm afraid there's going to be a storm here soon. We're not afraid of staying here, but it might not be a good thing for all of you. Junior Uncle Lu, you can just tell them. At this time Zhen Pingfan opened his mouth and said indifferently, the Li sect of the Great Mansion has sent many god emperors this time. They even invited some external help. They want to keep Tuoba Xiu here. As for the Netherworld Mansion, many powerhouses have come as well. After most of the forces in the 7 prefectures leave, a great battle might break out here. In order to prevent all of you from being implicated, we'll return in advance. There's no need for us to get involved in this mess. Compared to Lu Fenggu, Zhen Pingfan's words were straightforward. Everyone was enlightened. Of course, some of the bolder ones could not help but suggest they stay and watch the battle between the Emperor Gods. The others were tempted by this suggestion as well. You're quite bold. Zhen Pingfan shook his head. Do you know what happens when the Emperor Gods fight to the death? At that time, even we won't be able to protect all of you. How naive. All of you behave yourselves. Go back and prepare to meet us when you're ready. Zhen Pingfan was speechless at the fearless attitude of the group of young disciples. Did they really think a battle between emperor gods was child's play? At that time the surrounding area would be razed to the ground. A battle between emperor gods? In truth, Duan Lingtian also wanted to stay and watch the show. However, he knew it was unrealistic. It's good to go back first. There's still a divine abode waiting for me at the Chunyang school. I'll have the chance to watch a battle between emperor gods sooner or later. If I can't see it from the outside, I'll enter the planar battlefield. Duan Lingtian felt relieved when he thought of this. However, on the way back, Duan Lingtian thought of the beautiful figure with the veil on her face. He could not help but shake his head. I hope you're lucky enough to survive. It's not easy for a girl to achieve what she has today. Tuoba Xiao and he were originally two parallel lines. However, because Tuoba Xiao had congratulated him earlier, the parallel line she represented had deviated from its original path and crossed him. And he also felt that in the future, Tuoba Xiao would be like a straight line that crossed his line, and this was the only intersection point between them. In the future there would be no connection between them. Therefore, although he hoped that Tuoba Xiao would survive, he was not worried about her safety. After all, they were strangers. Even if Tuoba Xiao died this time, he would only sigh and say, "Beautiful women have unfortunate lives." That was all. 2 spots are better than none. The group of people from the Mochi clan left the 7 prefectures banquet under the lead of Golden Seat Elder Mochi Yuning. At the same time, he did not forget to send a voice transmission to Mochi Hong. There were too many accidents in the 7 prefectures banquet this time. It's normal that you didn't make it into the top 3. You don't have to think too much about it. Mochi Yuning thought that Mochi Hong's expression was still unsightly because he did not make it into the top 3. Chapter 4080. When they returned, the group of people from the Pure Sun sect didn't split into 2 groups. Instead, they boarded Lu Fenggu's divine artifact ship. Although it was a little crowded, it was not to the extent that there was no space for them to move around. This was also Lu Fenggu's suggestion. Although the sudden appearance of so many god emperors did not mean that they were here for Chunyang school, it was better for them to stick together just in case. Yi Chenfeng did not object to this. Lu Fenggu's suggestion was a good thing for him. At the very least, he did not need to spend time controlling the divine artifact or be vigilant of his surroundings. He might be stronger than Lu Fenggu, but his ability to detect his surroundings relied on his divine consciousness. In terms of divine consciousness, he was on par with Lu Fenggu. After all, they were both intermediate god emperors. Finally, it's quiet. A few days later, Duan Lingtian's ears finally regained their peace and quiet. After leaving the 7 prefectures feast, Duan Lingtian did not hear any voice transmissions for the next few days. It was always a group of Chunyang school disciples who came to talk to him. It did not matter if they knew him or not. Moreover, all of them were extremely polite. Duan Lingtian did not want to interrupt them, so he patiently responded to them one by one. It was only today that he finally had some peace and quiet. Apart from Yang Chenya, almost all of the disciples from Chunyang school congratulated Duan Lingtian through voice transmissions. Among them there was no lack of people who were proud and arrogant. Moreover, when they talked to Duan Lingtian felt that they were being forced to do so. It was not difficult for Duan Lingtian to guess that it was most likely their elders who forced them to befriend him. After all, in the eyes of the higher-ups of Chunyang school, Duan Lingtian was a person who had won the 7 prefectures feast before he was even 3,000 years old. There were only benefits to befriending such an existence, and there were no disadvantages. Duan Lingtian. Before long, Zhen Pingfan's voice sounded in Duan Lingtian's ear. You did well this time. Over the past few days, my father and my junior brother, who is also the current headmaster of Chunyang school, have convened 2 meetings with the decision-makers of Chunyang school, and the meeting unanimously agreed to give you the highest standard of gratitude for your contribution to Chunyang school. This time, not only will Chunyang school take out some treasures from their vault, but they will also go out to search for some treasures that you can use. Chunyang school is not a school that will take advantage of its disciples. This time, you've helped Chunyang school win 4 places to enter the sacred land. Chunyang school will not treat you unfairly. It had to be said that Zhen Pingfan's voice transmission was good news for the Duan Lingtian. Of course, this good news was also within his expectations. If Chunyang school did not show any appreciation for him winning first place in the 7 prefectures feast, he would find it unusual. How did such a school survive until today? Moreover, although he did not have much contact with Yi Chenfeng, He could see that Yi Chenfeng had a deep sense of belonging to Chunyang School. Otherwise he would not have stayed in Chunyang School until now. Although it would be difficult for him to get special treatment even if he went to those heavyweight godly venerable rank forces, ordinary godly venerable rank forces would definitely treat him as a guest of honor. After the Chunyang School group left the mysterious Jade Mansion, the journey was still peaceful. Regarding this, no one felt that it was abnormal. It would be unusual if it was not peaceful. Normally, no one would dare to block the way of an Emperor-class spaceship unless they had a purpose. However, not long after the spaceship left the mysterious Jade Mansion, it suddenly stopped. For a moment, everyone in the spaceship instinctively looked at Lu Fenggu. He was the one controlling the spaceship. There's someone there. At the same time, someone saw the situation in front of them through the spaceship's mirror. There was a figure standing there as if waiting for them. That figure looks familiar. Soon a Chunyang School elder frowned. At this time Lu Fenggu's voice was heard. It's Elder Lin Donglai from the mysterious Jade Mansion's Flame Howl sect. Lin Donglai. This name was not unfamiliar to Duan Lingtian and the others because he was the host of the 7 Prefectures feast this time. However, they were puzzled when they found out that the person who stopped them was Lin Donglai. What was Lin Donglai trying to do? Elder Yi, Elder Lu. While everyone was still puzzled, Lin Donglai's voice was heard from outside. Although he was far away, his voice seemed to have a penetrating power as it clearly entered Duan Lingtian and the others' ears. I didn't come here with any ill intentions. I just want to say a few words to Duan Lingtian on behalf of the godly venerable rank Lin clan. The godly venerable rank Lin clan. Duan Lingtian. Almost as soon as Lin Donglai finished speaking, everyone from Chunyang School in the spaceship looked at Duan Lingtian in unison. He was here to see Duan Lingtian. Moreover, Lin Donglai did not come on behalf of the mysterious Jade Mansion's Flame Howl sect, but the godly venerable rank Lin clan. Elder Lin. Lu Fenggu took the lead and stepped out of the spaceship. Although I had guessed earlier, I didn't expect you to be from the Lin clan. What is the reason for the Lin clan's disciples to be willing to stay in an emperor-level faction like the Flame Howl sect? Lu Fenggu came to the front of the spaceship and faced Lin Donglai with his back to the spaceship. Elder Lu. Lin Donglai was very polite to Lu Fenggu. It's a long story so I won't say much here. If Elder Lu comes to visit the Flame Howl sect one day, I'm willing to talk about the past with Elder Lu. Also don't worry Elder Lu. I came to see Duan Lingtian with no ill intentions. As for the reason, I'm sure Elder Lu has already guessed it. Although I don't think there's much hope, since I've accepted the request, I must finish what I started. I hope Elder Lu can understand. Since Lin Donglai had said so, Lu Fenggu did not say anything more. I have no problem with this matter. As long as you get Elder Yi to agree it's fine. In Lu Fenggu's opinion, Duan Lingtian was from the Chunyang School's Yunfeng branch, so he was closer to Yi Chenfeng. It was still up to Yi Chenfeng to decide whether to let Duan Lingtian come out to see Lin Donglai. It was useless for him to agree. Moreover, he did not want to make the decision so he did not want to please both sides. Now that he knew Lin Donglai was related to the godly venerable rank Lin clan, he did not dare to underestimate Lin Donglai. If it was not necessary, he did not want to make enemies with Lin Donglai. Go and have a chat with Elder Lin Donglai. Almost as soon as Lu Fenggu finished speaking, Lin Donglai's eyes fell on the spaceship again. Yi Chenfeng's slightly lazy voice sounded at the same time. Although he did not mention a name, everyone knew that he was talking to Duan Lingtian. That was because Lin Donglai was looking for Duan Lingtian. Duan Lingtian responded casually, then stepped into the air and left the spaceship. In a moment he arrived beside Lu Fenggu and looked at Lin Donglai. Elder Lin. Duan Lingtian cupped his hands and greeted Lin Donglai. Lin Donglai looked at Duan Lingtian with a bright smile on his face. Duan Lingtian, first of all, I want to congratulate you on winning first place in the 7 Prefectures feast. You taking first place is something I never expected. Upon hearing Lin Donglai's words, Duan Lingtian smiled modestly. Lin Donglai, you flatter me. It's also because your sect's Lin Yuan did not fight. Otherwise I might not have won first place. Lin Donglai was stunned at first, then he laughed. Duan Lingtian, you don't have to be humble in front of me. Lin Yuan's strength is not bad, but it's not as good as yours. What a joke. Lin Yuan was not even Wang Xiong's opponent. Wang Xiong was defeated by Duan Lingtian. Even if Lin Yuan challenged Duan Lingtian, he would not be able to escape defeat. I'm actually a little presumptuous this time, but I was asked to come by someone. At this point, Lin Donglai's face turned serious as he looked at Duan Lingtian with a slightly serious expression. Duan Lingtian, I'm here on behalf of the Divine Wood Prefecture's Lin clan to invite you to join the Lin clan. If you join the Lin clan, you can enjoy double the treatment of the most outstanding direct descendant. For example, Lin Yuan, you've seen him enjoy the treatment of a direct descendant in the Lin clan. If you join the Lin clan, you'll receive double the treatment. In addition, the Lin clan will give you a meeting gift that will satisfy you. As for what it is, I can tell you first if you're interested. If you're not, it's not convenient for me to say. Lin Donglai went straight to the point and invited Duan Lingtian to join the Lin clan, an ultimate god clan. He also promised various benefits, especially the meeting gift that he mentioned at the end, which was even more mysterious. Divine Wood Prefecture, the Lin clan, an ultimate god clan. Previously, Duan Lingtian had heard Zhen Pingfan mention it, and Zhen Pingfan had long suspected that Lin Yuan, who represented the Flame Howl sect in the Seven Prefectures banquet, was from the Lin clan of Divine Wood Prefecture. Now, with Lin Donglai's words, Zhen Pingfan's guess was verified. In fact, Zhen Pingfan was not the only one who guessed this. Anyone who knew about the Lin clan of Divine Wood Prefecture basically guessed that Lin Yuan, and even Lin Donglai, were from the Lin clan of Divine Wood Prefecture. Elder Lin. Duan Lingtian looked at Lin Donglai and smiled. I don't plan to leave Chunyang School for the time being. So I'm sorry. Duan Lingtian politely declined Lin Donglai's invitation. As for why he did not plan to leave Chunyang School for the time being, it was just an excuse. Even Lin Donglai must have known this. However, in the face of Duan Lingtian's refusal, Lin Donglai did not expose Duan Lingtian. At least, Duan Lingtian gave him a way out so that it would not be too awkward. If that's the case, I won't force you. Lin Donglai sighed, but his eyes did not seem to be surprised at all. Elder Lu, Elder Yi, farewell. In the next moment, after bidding farewell to Lu Fenggu and Yi Qinfeng, Lin Donglai rose into the air and left. The direction he was heading in was the direction Duan Lingtian and the others came from, Mystic Jade Prefecture. Chapter 4081. Lin Donglai did not look discouraged or disappointed when he left. It was obvious that he was not surprised by the result. In fact, he had already guessed that it would be like this before he came. Although the Lin clan of Divine Wood Manor was a godly venerable rank clan, it was only an ordinary godly venerable rank faction. Although they had godly venerable rank experts, their strength was only SOSO and was at the bottom of the godly venerable rank factions. Of course, the weakest among the ultimate god clans with ultimate god experts was the weakest among them. Those ultimate god clans without ultimate god experts might be considered as ultimate god clans by ordinary people, but in the eyes of people like Lin Donglai, they were only considered as outdated ultimate god clans and were not real ultimate god clans. They asked me to invite Duan Lingtian, so I went. As for whether I could invite him or not, it's not my fault. I've done what I can. Lin Donglai felt relieved on his way back. If I go back now, I might be able to join in the fun. They should be fighting soon, right? Of course, Duan Lingtian did not know what Lin Donglai was thinking. After Lin Donglai left, Duan Lingtian returned to the spaceship with Lu Fenggu. At this time, the people from Chunyang School looked at him differently. Duan Lingtian had received an invitation from an ultimate god clan. Moreover, it was not a has-been ultimate god level force, but one that had more than one ultimate god expert in the current generation. The Lin clan. The absolute overlord of the Sacred Wood Prefecture. The Sacred Wood Prefecture was not something any of the 7 prefectures could compare to. Compared to the Sacred Wood Prefecture, any of the 7 prefectures could only be considered a remote and desolate place. An ultimate god clan sent an invitation to Duan Lingtian? This is unbelievable. It's not an ultimate god clan in name, it's a real ultimate god clan. And they even offered such high conditions. Based on what Elder Lin Donglai said, as long as Duan Lingtian is willing to join the Lin clan of the Sacred Wood Prefecture, he will enjoy better treatment than Lin Yuan, maybe even twice as much as Lin Yuan. It seems that the Lin family values Duan Lingtian a lot. Most of the Chunyang School students present didn't have much of an idea of the value of Duan Lingtian. However, the higher-ups of Chunyang School and a small number of Chunyang School disciples knew the value of Duan Lingtian. Therefore, they were not surprised that the Lin family of the Sacred Wood Manor had invited Duan Lingtian. They even felt that the Lin family of the Divine Wood Manor was not good enough for Duan Lingtian. At the very least, in the Lin family, there was no monster like Duan Lingtian. Not even 3,000 years old, yet he had already achieved so much. Even among the heavyweight ultimate god forces or even the giant ultimate god forces, they were extremely rare. With Duan Lingtian's current achievements, the Lin family of the Sacred Wood Manor won't be the only godly venerable level faction that invited him. I'm afraid our Chunyang school will be very lively in the future. One of the Chunyang school elders said with emotion. Duan Lingtian is a true dragon. Chunyang school can't accommodate him. Only those powerful ultimate god forces are suitable for his growth. If Duan Lingtian continues to grow, he might be able to become an emperor god before he's 10,000 years old. He might even become an ultimate god in the future. The other Chunyang school elders were not stingy with their praise for Duan Lingtian. Their praise for Duan Lingtian made most of the Chunyang school students who did not realize the value of Duan Lingtian before. They further realized the value of Duan Lingtian. At this moment, the way they looked at Duan Lingtian had changed quite a bit. Did their Chunyang school have such a person? At this moment, even Yang Qinya took a second look at Duan Lingtian. Sensing Yang Qinya's gaze, Yuan Hanjin sent him a voice transmission and said, "It's not a big deal. As long as you work hard, with your foundation in the omnipotent God Palace, many ultimate God forces will invite you to join them in the future. One day you will trample Duan Lingtian under your feet." Yang Qinya only responded to Yuan Hanjin's consolation perfunctorily. His biggest goal now was not to join an ultimate God force, but to kill Yuan Hanjin. If he could kill Yuan Hanjin, he would be satisfied even if he was killed by Yuan Hanjin's father, Yuan Pingxing's great ancestor, Yuan Pingxing. I didn't expect this, I really didn't expect this. At the same time, Lan Pingxing, who was standing in a corner, looked at Duan Lingtian from afar with a complicated expression. At the same time, he was relieved that he did not provoke him further. It seems that I really can't provoke him anymore. For the rest of the journey, Duan Lingtian closed his eyes and cultivated. No one disturbed him. He only woke up when they arrived at Chunyang School. Then he followed Jin Pingfan back to Yunfeng Island and the Yunfeng faction, returning to his own cultivation place. Before parting ways with Zhen Pingfan, Duan Lingtian did not forget to remind Zhen Pingfan, "Elder Jin, help me keep an eye on the omnipotent God Palace. I'll see when I can go in. As for safety, you don't have to worry. I have full confidence that I can come out from there." Duan Lingtian's eyes were full of confidence. Since someone could come out of the omnipotent God Palace alive, and since it was a place that tested one's willpower, he felt that it would not be too difficult for him. His willpower was not weaker than Yang Qinya's desire for revenge. After all, he had been supported by his obsession all this time, and his obsession was his wife, Kerr. "I'll let you know if there's any news," Jin Pingfan said. Now he was no longer worried that Duan Lingtian would be in danger after entering the omnipotent God Palace. First, it was obvious that Duan Lingtian had made up his mind. Second, Duan Lingtian's confidence made it hard for him not to be convinced. As for Junior Uncle Yi, I'll also urge him to contact Senior Uncle Yuan as soon as possible. The Senior Uncle Yuan that Zhen Pingfan mentioned was the patriarch of the Pingxing faction, Yuan Pingxing. Duan Lingtian was still restless when he heard this, but he did not urge him further. Now he could only wait for news. However, after Zhen Pingfan left, his restless emotions quickly calmed down. He recalled the process of the 7 Prefectures banquet and felt as though a lifetime had passed. Based on my strength when I first set off, let alone first place in the 7 Prefectures banquet, it was almost impossible for me to even be in the top 3. Fortunately, the 5 divine elements helped me in time and completely consolidated my cultivation base as a middle-level divine emperor before the 7 Prefectures banquet. However, even with that strength, I'm afraid I could only barely make it into the top 3. It was Elder Yi Qinfeng who showed me the true meaning of the sword and let me observe it for 2 days. After that, I was inspired to let my true body and clone work together with a formation. Because of that moment of inspiration, my mind suddenly flashed with inspiration, and even the law of space advanced a step further, mastering the second teleportation. It could be said that Yi Qinfeng was the main reason why he was able to obtain first place in the 7 Prefectures banquet. Of course, the help of the 5 divine elements also played a big role. If his cultivation base as a middle-level divine emperor had not been completely consolidated, it would have been impossible for him to obtain first place even with Yi Qinfeng's help and subsequent improvements. Reverend God Forces. If those heavyweight Reverend God Forces really come to invite me, what should I do? Duan Lingtian did not know much about the heavyweight Reverend God Forces in the Shengang land until Zhen Pingfan mentioned it to him in advance. Only then did he have a better understanding of the dozen or so heavyweight Reverend God Forces. Those dozen or so heavyweight Reverend God forces were forces that had stood tall in the Shengang land for many years without falling. Some of them were even as strong as the heavyweight Reverend God forces. What they lacked was an omnipotent expert. If they could produce an omnipotent expert, they could also become a heavyweight Reverend God force in one fell swoop. Also, this time what benefits will Chunyang School give me? They said it's useful to me and I hope it's really useful. After all, I'm different from ordinary middle-level divine emperors. Things that are useful to ordinary middle-level divine emperors may not be useful to me. For example, some divine pills. Duan Lingtian had taken similar divine pills before, and they were peak divine pills. If he took them again, he would not be able to absorb any medicinal effects due to his resistance. A few days later, Duan Lingtian received a message from Zhen Pingfan. He thought it would be good news. But he did not expect to be told that he had no fate with the omnipotent divine abode. I went to see the omnipotent divine abode with Martial Uncle Yi. Indeed, only low-level divine emperors and those with lower cultivation can enter. Mid-level divine emperors and above can't enter. Originally, Yuan Hanjin was not very cooperative, but in the end he could not bear the pressure from Martial Uncle Yi and could only cooperate and tell us the location of the omnipotent divine abode. Duan Lingtian did not listen to the rest of Zhen Pingfan's words. He only listened to the first part. That was, he could not go to the omnipotent divine abode. It was limited by cultivation. It was not that he had not thought of this possibility. After all, the power in the omnipotent divine abode would also fade with the passage of time in the strange situation where there was no omnipotent expert to continuously transfer power to it, but he felt that the possibility was very small, and he should not encounter it. But he did not expect that he would really encounter it. Duan Lingtian, it's just a omnipotent divine abode. It's not a big deal. With your talent and comprehension, even if you don't have a omnipotent divine abode, you can quickly rise. This time the sect will give you a lot of resources, and there should be people from the heavyweight ultimate god forces as well. If you really go to a heavyweight ultimate god force, as long as you have the ability and value, you won't have to worry about resources. Seeing that Duan Lingtian did not speak for a long time, Zhen Pingfan changed the topic and began to comfort Duan Lingtian. Moreover, your achievements at this age are enough to make more than 99% of the people in the Shengang land envious. It's really nothing to lose a omnipotent divine abode. Chapter 4082. During Zhen Pingfan's speech, Duan Lingtian gradually came back to his senses. He didn't expect that Elder Zhen would say so much just because he was distracted for a moment. It was as if he couldn't live without the supreme spiritual abode. Although he valued the supreme spiritual abode, it wasn't to the point where he would seek death. Although it was gratifying to lose the opportunity to enter the supreme spiritual abode, it only affected him for a moment. It was nothing. Besides, the supreme spiritual abode didn't belong to him. It was luck that he could enter it, but it didn't matter if he couldn't. In this regard, he felt that he had a good mentality. However, he didn't expect that after he didn't reply to Zhen Pingfan's message for a long time, Zhen Pingfan actually came to find him in person. For a moment, Duan Lingtian was speechless, but he also felt a little warm in his heart. Elder Zhen, I'm fine. As you said, it's just a supreme spiritual abode. It can't affect my life. Duan Lingtian said with a smile. Seeing Duan Lingtian's smile, Zhen Pingfan looked at Duan Lingtian seriously. After confirming that Duan Lingtian wasn't pretending, he secretly breathed a sigh of relief. He knew that Duan Lingtian had high expectations for the supreme spiritual abode. It was because of this that he was worried that Duan Lingtian would be too disappointed and affect his cultivation, or even develop inner demons. Now that he saw that Duan Lingtian was fine, he was finally relieved. Although Duan Lingtian wasn't his disciple, he was still a genius that he had personally introduced to Chunyang School. In addition, he had a good temper, so he had never regarded Duan Lingtian as a junior. He completely regarded him as a friend. Especially after Duan Lingtian obtained a high-grade half-soul divine artifact for him, he regarded Duan Lingtian as a close friend. His attitude completely changed. It was also because of this that he thought of Duan Lingtian and everything that followed. During the 7 Prefectures feast, Duan Lingtian was even more worried. Although it was not necessarily what Duan Lingtian needed, he had done his best for Duan Lingtian. Although Duan Lingtian did not say anything, he still owed him a favor. It's good that you can think that way. Zhen Pingfan nodded and left with a peace of mind. After Zhen Pingfan left, Duan Lingtian's gaze also became firm and resolute. He no longer thought about the matter of the Supreme Divine Palace. If it was gone, then it was gone. It was no big deal. Right now, the most important thing was to continue improving his strength. After experiencing the ups and downs of his mood, Duan Lingtian also calmed down a lot. From the second day onwards, he paid no attention to the outside world and focused on cultivating. It was not until Chunyang School entrusted Zhen Yunfeng to personally deliver the resources that Duan Lingtian stepped out of his room for the first time. Zhen Pingfan and Yi Chenfeng also came with Zhen Yunfeng. Elder Yunfeng, Elder Yi, Elder Zhen. Duan Lingtian originally thought that Zhen Pingfan would deliver the resources alone, but he did not expect Zhen Yunfeng and Yi Chenfeng to also come. Surprised, he hurriedly welcomed them in. Don't be shy. Zhen Yunfeng looked at Duan Lingtian with a smile. I came with junior brother Yi mainly to show some people that we think highly of you. Otherwise, they might think that you should not take these resources. The meaning behind Zhen Yunfeng's words was obvious. He and Yi Chenfeng came here mainly to hold the fort. Hearing Zhen Yunfeng's words, Duan Lingtian could not help but be shocked. What kind of resources did these two get for him? How could they not be able to stand him? One had to know that this time he had won 4 spots for Chunyang School to enter the Holy Land Mystic Realm, 2 more than he had expected. After all, Chunyang School's expectations were for him to enter the top 10 of the 7 prefectures banquet, not the top 3 and definitely not first place. Then Zhen Yunfeng handed the storage ring to Duan Lingtian. Duan Lingtian glanced at the contents inside, and even though he was prepared, he was still shocked. Inside the storage ring, there were all kinds of medicinal herbs piled up everywhere. Although there were not many of them, all of them were of high quality without exception. Among them, there was no lack of rare medicinal herbs that were needed for divine pills to aid in cultivation. These were all things that could only be found by chance and could not be bought on the market. It was not the kind that no one would buy if there was a price, but the kind that no one would sell if there was a price. Apart from that, there was also a high-grade defensive divine artifact. At first glance, one could tell that it was not an ordinary item. There was even a faint soul aura on it, indicating that it was already showing signs of developing an artifact soul. Although this kind of high-grade divine artifact was not as valuable as a half-soul high-grade divine artifact, it was still much more valuable than an ordinary high-grade divine artifact. This high-grade defensive divine artifact was a silver armor with perfect streamlined lines. There was a faint silver glow on it, and in between the silver glow there was a faint golden glow. It was these specks of golden light that gave off a clear soul aura, the embryonic form of an artifact soul. As long as there was someone to nurture this kind of high-grade divine artifact, its artifact soul would take shape sooner or later. The most valuable thing in here is that high-grade defensive divine artifact, flowing silver armor. When Duan Lingtian took the storage ring and claimed it as his master, and was clearly looking through the contents of the ring, Zhen Pingfan spoke up at the right time. This high-grade defensive divine artifact was passed down from the first disciple of the founder of our Chunyang School. It was also passed down from the second-generation schoolmaster of our Chunyang School. Back then, after his high-grade offensive divine artifact soul had been nurtured, he had the energy to spare and began to nurture the artifact soul of this divine artifact. Unfortunately, just as the embryonic form of the artifact soul was born, he met with an accident while he was out. While he killed his opponent, he was also severely injured. After that, he was unable to withstand the heavenly tribulation 100 years later. This divine artifact was left behind just like that. After that, it changed owners many times, but no one had the energy to nurture it. This is because, for a mid-level god emperor or above, it is already very difficult to nurture the artifact soul of a divine artifact. It is very difficult to nurture the artifact soul of a second divine artifact. However, even though the artifact soul on it is only an embryonic form, it is still much stronger than the average high-grade defensive divine artifact. If it was my father alone, he would not have been able to obtain this divine artifact. In the end, it was only when Uncle Master Yi spoke up that the others reluctantly agreed to give this divine artifact to you as a reward for your contribution to the sect at the Feast of the 7 Prefectures this time. As Zhen Pingfan continued to introduce the high-grade defensive divine artifact, Duan Lingtian finally realized how rare this armor was. The most difficult part of a divine artifact soul was not its growth, but the nurturing of an artifact soul. This was because not every divine artifact could nurture an artifact soul. Even a high-grade divine artifact had to be forged from very good materials, and it had to contain certain rare materials in order to nurture an artifact soul. Among the materials to forge a high-grade offensive divine artifact, this material was relatively easy to find. However, among the materials to forge a high-grade defensive divine artifact, this material was very difficult to find. In addition, most people spent their energy on nurturing an artifact soul for a high-grade offensive divine artifact, so it was relatively rare to find a high-grade defensive divine artifact soul. Is it appropriate for me to have this? Duan Lingtian was a little hesitant. After all, he did not plan to stay in Chunyang School forever, and this armor had an extraordinary meaning to Chunyang School. After all, this was a divine artifact passed down by the first disciple of Chunyang School's founder, the second-generation schoolmaster of Chunyang School. Are you thinking that this divine artifact has an extraordinary meaning to Chunyang School, and you are preparing to leave Chunyang School? Zhen Yunfeng saw through Duan Lingtian's thoughts and said with a faint smile, "If that's what you think, then there's no need for that. This divine artifact is actually gathering dust in Chunyang School. If it can follow you out of Chunyang School, it will also be a kind of comfort to the founder. After all, you are a disciple of Chunyang School who walked out of Chunyang School, and you have the brand of Chunyang School on you. If you can successfully nurture an artifact soul in the future, even in the Shengang land, it will become a good story." Hearing Zhen Yunfeng's words, Duan Lingtian immediately dispelled the worries in his heart. He was not an indecisive person and he really did need this armor. With it, he would have another means to save his life at a critical moment. Duan Lingtian. After Zhen Yunfeng and Duan Lingtian left first, Zhen Pingfan stayed behind and warned Duan Lingtian with a serious expression. When you have the ability to nurture an artifact soul of this high-grade defensive divine artifact, don't be in a hurry to nurture it. It's better to nurture a high-grade offensive divine artifact at first. A high-grade offensive divine artifact's artifact soul is far more helpful to you than a high-grade defensive divine artifact's artifact soul. Obviously, Zhen Pingfan was worried that when Duan Lingtian had the ability to nurture an artifact soul in the future, he would nurture the prototype of this ready-made artifact soul first, and not nurture the high-grade offensive divine artifact soul. In his opinion, this was a detour that would delay Duan Lingtian. Elder Zhen, I am well aware of this. Duan Lingtian smiled. Naturally he was aware of this. However, he already had a prominent divine weapon that had given birth to an artifact soul, so he did not need to think too much about it. When he entered the Emperor God realm, his 7 orifices exquisite sword's artifact soul, Huang'e, would be able to show herself to others. He did not need to hide like now. At that time, even if someone was greedy, he would have the ability to protect her. As for now, it was better to keep a low profile. Also, at the same time, Zhen Pingfan raised his hand and gave Duan Lingtian a jade slip. This contains the specific information of more than a dozen heavyweight ultimate god forces in the mysterious gangland. Take a good look. Although these dozen ultimate god forces may not all send people to invite you to join, it won't do you any harm to know all of them. I have personally compiled this information recently. I have a detailed record of many aspects that you need to pay attention to. There were some things that Zhen Pingfan did not say. That was, the information he recorded was not something he knew himself. He only managed to successfully record it by asking others and combining it with the records he had read recently. Chapter 4083. However, even though Zhen Pingfan did not mention it, Duan Lingtian could feel Zhen Pingfan's good intentions as he read through the contents of the jade slip that Zhen Pingfan had given him. There were more than a dozen ultimate god-level factions in the mysterious gangland. Each faction was clearly recorded by Zhen Pingfan, including some details. Even if it was impossible for him to join an ultimate god-level faction, it was clearly recorded. For example, the Rainbow Phoenix Pavilion. It was the only sect that only accepted female disciples among the heavyweight ultimate god forces and giant ultimate god forces in the mysterious gangland. The scale of this faction was actually not very big. The reason why it could stand for so many years was because of the backbone of the faction. The Rainbow Phoenix Pavilion had never lacked high-level divine venerables, and because of this, its status in the mysterious gang territory had always been very high. In addition, the disciples of the Rainbow Phoenix Pavilion were not prohibited from marriage. However, after marriage they could only be considered as an outer disciple of the Rainbow Phoenix Pavilion. However, even if they were outer disciples, as long as they left the Rainbow Phoenix Pavilion, they would rarely forget their roots. Almost every one of them would think of the Rainbow Phoenix Pavilion after leaving. And these outstanding female disciples of the Ni Chang Phoenix Pavilion, their marriage partners were generally very outstanding people. They either had a powerful family or a powerful sect behind them. Even if they were just individual cultivators, they were still very strong. In the eyes of these people, the Rainbow Phoenix Pavilion was their wife or concubine's maiden home. If someone bullied their wife or concubine's maiden home, they naturally could not stand by and do nothing. Even if they wanted to stand by and do nothing, they might not be able to stop pillow talk. Even if they could stop pillow talk, if the wife or concubine went to help her maiden home, they would not be able to stand by and do nothing. Of course, the Rainbow Phoenix Pavilion's standing is not because of nepotism, but because of its own foundation and strength. If it only relied on nepotism, it would have fallen long ago. As Duan Ling Tian continued to read, he gained a better understanding of the Rainbow Phoenix Pavilion. The Rainbow Phoenix Pavilion was extremely powerful. Perhaps they did not have as many disciples as other heavyweight ultimate god forces, but their top combat strength was not inferior to other heavyweight ultimate god forces at all. After reading the introduction of the Ni Chang Phoenix Pavilion, Zhen Pingfan added a paragraph at the end. Duan Ling Tian was stunned at first, but then he didn't know whether to laugh or cry. His original words were, "Duan Ling Tian, you can consider kidnapping a daughter-in-law from the Ni Chang Feng Pavilion." The Ni Chang Phoenix Pavilion still had feelings for every disciple who married outside. If there was a problem, as long as they were in the right, the Ni Chang Phoenix Pavilion would not stand by and do nothing. After reading this paragraph, Duan Ling Tian really didn't know whether to laugh or cry. "Elder Zhen, are you asking me to live off a woman?" A moment later, Duan Ling Tian's attention shifted to the next ultimate god level faction. He had learned about all the major ultimate god forces. These ultimate god level factions had one thing in common, which was that they all had upper-level ultimate god experts. As long as there were no ultimate gods, they could do whatever they wanted in the planes of gods. At that cultivation level, no one would be weak. What a joke. If one's talent and comprehension were not enough, how could one survive the Millennium Tribulation and reach that level? Once a person's cultivation level reached the upper-level ultimate god level, their comprehension of the law profundity would definitely be very profound. Some of them might even have other trump cards up their sleeves. For example, the 4 Tao of heaven and earth. For example, the 5 divine elements. Or perhaps there were other methods that Duan Ling Tian didn't know about yet. There are only 2 clans among the dozens of godly venerable rank factions. Moreover, Elder Zhen also said that these 2 clans would most likely not send anyone here. Zhen Pingfan's original words were that even if a powerful clan was interested in a genius from outside, it was unlikely that they would recruit him into the clan. If the younger generation of the clan was suppressed by the other party, it would not be good for the clan's reputation. Not all of the younger generation would be able to become stronger and surpass the other party under the pressure of a disciple with a different surname. Most of them would be directly crippled. As for the rest, more than 90% of them are from sections. What's interesting is that there's actually an academy. If there were more than a dozen heavyweight factions that Zhen Pingfan had introduced, Duan Ling Tian was most interested in the academy. Myriad Law Academy. Myriad Law Academy was similar to a sect, but it was also not a sect. This was because joining it gave one absolute freedom, unlike sects where one was bound by rules and regulations. The academy was similar to the academy that Duan Ling Tian had come into contact with before. As the most powerful academy in the Mystic Handle land, Myriad Law Academy had students all over the world. Many of the younger generation from the Ultimate God level factions and Heavyweight Ultimate God level factions had studied there before. Of course, those people did not enter Myriad Law Academy to learn anything. They just wanted to enjoy and experience the atmosphere there. Within the 10,000 Arts Academy, there were only 3 identities: Academy teachers, Academy students, Academy laborers. Teachers were responsible for preaching and dispelling doubts, patrolling the academy and guarding the academy. Students were responsible for learning and completing the teaching tasks issued by the academy teachers. Those with high cultivation would be sent out as representatives of the academy to compete with other heavyweight ultimate god level factions and heavyweight ultimate god level factions for resources. As for the laborers, they were the ones in charge of cleaning up the 10,000 Jurisprudence Palace, the ones in charge of planting flowers and plants, and the ones in charge of taking care of the students' daily needs. Interesting. Duan Lingtian's eyes flashed as he smiled. Myriad Law Academy was actually in existence similar to the academy he had come into contact with before, but its level was higher, standing at the top of the pyramid in the Mystic Handle land. Within the Myriad Arts Academy, there were also upper-level ultimate gods. Moreover, it was rumored that the 10,000 Arts Academy originated from the disciple of a loose cultivator. That person was grateful for his master's kindness, and thus established the 10,000 Arts Academy. He accepted all kinds of disciples in memory of his master. As for why they wanted to commemorate his ultimate God master, some said that he had fallen in an accident. Others said that he had gone into seclusion and had never seen his disciple who founded Myriad Law Academy. There were many versions, but none of them were confirmed. It's amazing that even the disciple of a ultimate God could establish an academy to this extent. Duanling Tian could not help but sigh. However, according to Elder Zhen, Myriad Law Academy is the least likely ultimate God level faction to send someone to invite me to join, aside from the Ni Chang Feng Pavilion. It's not just me. No one in the history of Myriad Law Academy has received such treatment. These were all mentioned in the jade slip left behind by Zhen Pingfan. Even the Ni Chang Feng Pavilion had taken the initiative to invite geniuses to join many times in its long history. Of course, those were all female geniuses. Some were even worse than the current Duanling Tian. However, the problem was that Duanling Tian was a man, not a woman. To put it bluntly, he did not want to bring a gang. Because Myriad Law Academy could not possibly send someone, Zhen Pingfan directly told Duanling Tian not to consider Myriad Law Academy. Myriad Law Academy could not possibly send someone to invite him, unless he went to Myriad Law Academy himself. Of course, the Myriad Arts Academy wouldn't reject such a genius from joining. However, Zhen Pingfan did not recommend this. In addition, he also said a lot to Duanling Tian. Although Myriad Law Academy looks good, it's actually a sect. It's just that compared to ordinary sects, it's more just and fair. If Myriad Law Academy can provide you with resources that are not inferior to those of other ultimate God level factions, I'll definitely recommend you to join Myriad Law Academy. But the problem is, Myriad Law Academy can't be like that. If other ultimate God level factions can promise you enough resources and let you enjoy the best treatment there, joining them will save you a few thousand years of hard work. Zhen Fanfan's every word of warning to Duanling Tian could be said to be well-intentioned, and Duanling Tian was able to clearly sense his intentions, and he couldn't help but be shocked in his heart. Elder Zhen, although he had won a high-grade half-soul divine artifact for Zhen Pingfan, he had never thought of taking credit for it. After all, Zhen Pingfan had helped him a lot before and he was only returning the favor. Now, Zhen Pingfan's actions made him feel some pressure. What he hated the most was to owe someone a favor. His master, Feng Qingyang, had helped him, but he did not feel any pressure because that was his master. He would also do everything within his power for his master. Yi Chenfeng had helped him because his master had done him a favor, so he did not feel much pressure. But Zhen Pingfan made him feel pressure. Of course, he knew in his heart that Zhen Pingfan did not mean to do him a favor. Perhaps he just wanted to return the favor for giving him a high-grade half-soul divine artifact. However, in his opinion, if Yi Chenfeng had not intervened that day, he would not have been able to snatch back that high-grade half-soul divine artifact. Shaking his head, Duanling Tian sighed and stopped thinking about it. Forget it. He would slowly return this favor when he had the chance in the future. Crimson Light Heavenly Palace, 9 Tiger Valley, Monorigin Divine Sect. After calming down, Duanling Tian continued to read the jade slip Zhen Pingfan had given him about the other ultimate god level factions. In addition, a few ultimate god level factions were also mentioned, and they would most likely send people to him. These ultimate god level factions were the weakest of the younger generation compared to other ultimate god level factions. Zhen Pingfan had also suggested that Duanling Tian join them. Joining such ultimate god level factions would directly become their front. Under such circumstances, they would definitely spare no effort to nurture Duanling Tian. Elder Zhen is thinking far ahead. Duanling Tian sighed again, feeling more and more aware of Zhen Pingfan's good intentions. Chapter 4084. 9 Mammoth Valley. As one of the top forces in the Shengang land, the 9 Mammoth Valley had a transcendent status. It was located deep in the mountains, which was like a paradise. It was like spring all year round. The grass was green and there were clouds and mist in the mountains. It looked like a paradise on earth. In a quiet valley, a young figure stepped on the air and landed. It was a tall young man with a jade-like face. His eyes carried some vicissitudes of life, and it was obvious that his real age was very different from his appearance. What's the matter? As soon as the young man appeared, he saw a middle-aged man standing upright in a quiet courtyard in the valley. He asked curiously, Second elder. The middle-aged man bowed to the young man and said respectfully, "You've finally come out of seclusion. I'm here this time because I have something important to ask you to make a decision. Sect Master and Great Elder have not returned yet. I can only ask you to make a decision." The middle-aged man said respectfully, "What's the matter?" The young man looked young, but his tone was dignified and indifferent. "Second Elder, before I tell you about this matter, please take a look at the floating image recorded in this floating image pearl." The middle-aged man said as he took out a floating image pearl and handed it to the young man. The young man raised his eyebrows. In the next moment, the floating image pearl left the middle-aged man's hand and floated in front of the young man. Then the image recorded in it was displayed. In the image, a vast field appeared. There were many small floating islands around it. It was obvious that there were many spectators. In the field there were two people facing each other. One was a young man in purple, and the other was a sloppy middle-aged man. After a while the two of them started to fight. At first the young man looked calm. It was only when the young man in purple displayed his sword principle that his eyebrows twitched slightly. His sword principle is not bad. It's rare for a middle divine emperor to have such an achievement in sword principle, the young man said. After a while, when he saw the young man in purple perform the second teleportation, he was finally moved. At the same time he looked at the middle-aged man. A middle divine emperor who can perform the second teleportation. How old is this person? A middle divine emperor who could perform the second teleportation. Even in the history of the Nine Mammoths Valley, the earliest few ancestors who had comprehended the second instant transmission had only mastered it when they were at the high-level divine emperor realm. Those ancestors all went on to achieve great things. One of them even led the Nine Watchmen Valley to new heights and laid a solid foundation for the Nine Watchmen Valley. A middle-level divine emperor who had mastered the second instant teleportation. He had heard of such a person, however, that was an achievement that could only be achieved by those with limited cultivation talent and astounding comprehension of laws. Moreover, such people would usually die before they could become god emperors. Less than 3,000 years old. The middle-aged man seemed to have been waiting for this moment. When he heard the young man's question, his eyes lit up. What? The young man was shocked as well. Are you sure that this young man who has mastered teleportation twice in Sword Dao is less than 3,000 years old? Yes. The middle-aged man nodded solemnly. If that wasn't the case, I wouldn't have waited here for you to come out of secluded cultivation. The middle-aged man bluntly stated that the reason he was waiting here for the young man in the scryer recording was that the young man in the scryer recording had achieved so much despite being less than 3,000 years old. At this moment, the young man's expression changed again. He asked anxiously, "Who is this person?" The middle-aged man had come to him because of this, which meant that this person could be roped in. It was not difficult for him to guess this, so when he asked this question, his tone was somewhat anxious. This was a good seedling. Compared to the best seedlings of the younger generation in the Nine Watchmen Valley, he could only be stronger. When the middle-aged man saw this, he did not remain silent as if he had expected the young man's reaction. He is Duan Lingtian, a disciple of the Chunyang school in Tunglung province, one of the 7 prefectures. The 7 prefectures are located in the eastern region of the Shengang land. They are relatively remote and are located in the mountains. The people there rarely come out. As for our side, it is too backward and there are no resources there, so very few people go there. The scryer recording is the scryer recording of the 7 prefectures banquet held by the 7 prefectures. I'm sure you've heard of the 7 prefectures banquet, Second Elder, the middle-aged man said. The young man nodded. I've heard of it. The 7 prefectures banquet is a competition for a spot in the so-called Holy Land secret realm. In their eyes it's a holy land, but in our eyes, it's just a small spirit accumulation secret realm. The people there are generally weaker in terms of talent and comprehension, so it's extremely difficult for them to enter the upper god emperor realm. The third-rate spirit accumulation secret realm has given some of the more talented middle god emperors an opportunity to break through. Otherwise, the people there would basically stop at the middle god emperor realm. I really didn't expect that the remote 7 prefectures banquet could produce such a seedling. Even Wang Xiong, who had fought with Duan Lingtian, was not taken seriously by the young man. Although his strength was not bad in the young man's opinion, since the middle-aged man did not mention him, it meant that he did not have much value. Moreover, as far as he knew, the 7 prefectures banquet was a stage for the younger generation under the age of 10,000. Thinking about it, the middle-aged man who was not even 10,000 years old would be soon. Second Elder, The Council of Elders intends to send an envoy to invite him to join our 9 Watchmen Valley. In fact, the envoy sent by the Council of Elders is already on the way. The plan we've come up with now is to offer him conditions to join our 9 Watchmen Valley. However, the Valley Master, the Great Elder, and you are not here. Without your approval, there are some resources that we can't give out. The middle-aged man's words were very clear. The Council of Elders of the 9 Watchmen Valley had already sent someone to the Chunyang School in Tunglung Province to invite Duan Lingtian to join them. However, they were not confident that they would be able to take him in. After all, the 9 Watchmen Valley was definitely not the only heavyweight godly venerable rank force that was tempted. If the conditions were not good enough, they might not be able to compete with the other forces. Gather the members of the Council of Elders for an immediate meeting. The young man's figure flashed, and he had already left the place where he usually lived. He had originally planned to come back and rest for a while after coming out of seclusion, but now he was no longer in the mood to rest. Although there were some good seedlings in the current generation of the 9 Watchmen Mansion, they were still lacking compared to their generation in the past. Now that he knew there was such a good seedling waiting to be nurtured outside, he could not help himself. If he could take this young man into the 9 Watchmen Valley, he might be able to add another pillar to the 9 Watchmen Valley in the future. In the 9 Watchmen Valley, those who could be called pillars were definitely godly venerable rank experts. Moreover, they were generally at the medium godly venerable rank and above. A medium godly emperor who had mastered the sword Dao and teleportation skill before the age of 3000? It was not that there had never been such people in the history of the 9 Watchmen Valley. There were even people who were more outstanding, but there were not many of them. A law clone. He's not even a native of the Mystic Gangland. He's from a Devata realm. This was even more shocking. At the very least, as the second elder of the 9 Watchmen Valley, he had never heard of anyone who was not a native of a Devata realm who could achieve this at such a young age. In the Mon-Origin Divine Sect. Have you investigated thoroughly? Is he really from a mundane realm? In a spacious hall, a skinny old man dressed in a long black robe asked in a deep voice. Vice Sect Master, we've investigated thoroughly, the person replied. He's indeed from a mundane realm. Moreover, according to the information our people from the Mon-Origin Divine Sect obtained, he's not even 1,000 years old. Others said he's close to 3,000 years old. He must have used a divine pill to conceal his age, so he doesn't want to be too high profile. The Mon-Origin Divine Sect was one of the major godly venerable rank forces in the Mystic Gangland. There was no lack of godly venerable rank experts from the Devata realms. It was not difficult for them to obtain information about Duan Lingtian by using the void-piercing divine shuttle. He's not even 1,000 years old and he's already so accomplished. Even in the history of the Mon-Origin Divine Sect, there hasn't been such a monster before. In the beginning, the Vice Sect Master of the Mon-Origin Divine Sect was not that shocked when he learned about Duan Lingtian's achievements before he was even 3,000 years old. After all, there was more than one genius in the Mon-Origin Divine Sect who was not any weaker than Duan Lingtian. The quality of the Mon-Origin Divine Sect's younger generation could be considered as good among the dozen major godly venerable rank forces in the Mystic Gangland. However, which force would complain about having too many young geniuses? Immediately send a message to those who went to the Chunyang School to recruit Duan Lingtian and increase the bargaining chip. We must recruit Duan Lingtian to our sect. The Vice Sect Master of the Mon-Origin Divine Sect ordered immediately. Vice Sect Master, what if he doesn't choose the Mon-Origin Divine Sect in the end? The person next to him asked. If he doesn't agree, we'll use some threats. For example, we'll tell him we know about his background in the Devata realms and the mundane realms. Since he's able to cultivate to such a level, he must be a smart person. There's no need to say too much since he'll be able to guess our intentions. Vice Sect Master, isn't that a little inappropriate? After all, if he doesn't join the Mon-Origin Divine Sect, he'll choose to join another force. It's not appropriate for us to make a move on his family or property in the lower realms, right? I'm afraid the force behind him will stand up for him. Why should we let people find out it's the Mon-Origin Divine Sect who did it? As long as we don't leave any evidence behind, we can just do it. Do you think the force behind him will make things difficult for the Mon-Origin Divine Sect for no reason? How naive. You're wise, Vice Sect Master. A young and beautiful woman followed behind a beautiful woman as they entered the floating island behind the clouds. This floating island was also surrounded by a large number of floating islands like stars surrounding the moon. This place was the base of the Neon Phoenix Pavilion, one of the dozen major godly venerable rank forces in the mystic gangland. Junior Sister Xiao, I'll bring you to Master now. The beautiful woman smiled at the young woman behind her. Chapter 4085. Tuoba Xiao had been accepted by the Ni Chang Phoenix Pavilion. Not many people knew about this matter. Only the people from the Underworld Manor, the Great Ming Prefecture's Originally sect, and the God Emperor experts invited by the Originally sect. The rest were the experts from the Profound Jade Mansion who had stayed behind to watch the show. That day the Great Ming Prefecture's Originally sect had been determined to kill Tuoba Xiao. However, the experts from the three major powers of the Underworld Manor had protected Tuoba Xiao. After a fierce battle, a female expert had arrived at the scene. With a wave of her hand, she had suppressed all the God Emperors who had attacked. Among them there were more than a dozen mid-God Emperors. Originally the Underworld Manor only had 3 mid-God Emperors present. As for the Great Ming Prefecture's Originally sect, there was only one. However, in order to kill Tuoba Xiao, the Originally sect had not only sent a mid-God Emperor, they had also paid a huge price to invite external help. A few mid-God Emperors. Of course, the 3 major powers of the Underworld Manor had also sent a few mid-God Emperors. However, under the shocked gazes of the Profound Jade Mansion's experts who were watching the show, the mid-God Emperors had been suppressed by a mysterious female expert who had appeared out of nowhere. All the God Emperors who had been fighting in the chaotic battle had been crushed. All the God Emperors had tacitly stopped their attacks to defend themselves. At the same time they were all injured and spat out blood. High God Emperor. Full soul high-grade divine artifact. At that moment, everyone looked in shock at the female figure who was standing in the air like an unrivaled expert. Not only was she a upper God Emperor expert, she also had a full soul high-grade divine weapon. Furthermore, from the strength she had displayed, she was not a weakling among the high God Emperors. Who are you? Why are you interfering in the grudge between the Great Ming Prefecture's Originally sect and the Tuoba family? A mid-God Emperor from the Originally sect looked at the female with fear. At this moment, his voice was trembling violently. Too terrifying. This woman was too terrifying. I am from the Ni Chang Phoenix Pavilion. You? Are you questioning me? The woman's voice was indifferent. The moment she finished speaking, a stream of light shot out from the ribbon in her hand. It instantly pierced through the body of that talkative Originally sect middle-level Emperor God expert and killed him through space. The Underworld Manor was dead silent. In the next instant, the woman looked at Tuoba Xiao, who was also looking at her in shock. She smiled and asked, Tuoba Xiao, are you willing to join my Rainbow Phoenix Pavilion? An I Chang Pavilion. This was actually the first time Tuoba Xiao had heard of it. She had no idea what it meant. However, judging from the strength displayed by the person in front of her, she was certain that the Ni Chang Phoenix Pavilion was stronger than any of the top 3 Supreme God-level factions in the Underworld Mansion. However, she did not respond to him immediately. Instead, she looked at the old man from the Yuan clan of the Underworld Manor. He was also the leader of the Yuan clan who brought people to participate in the Feast of the 7 Manors. And it has Luo's as well. And Luo clan as well. And he quickly. Do not hesitate. If you want to avenge your family, the best choice is to join the Ni Chang Phoenix Pavilion. The Ni Chang Phoenix Pavilion is one of the top 20 ultimate gods in the Shengang land. There are many ultimate gods in the pavilion. I heard that they even have upper ultimate gods. Tuoba Xiao was moved by the old man's words. She did not hesitate and agreed to join the female in the sky. Senior, I am willing to join the Ni Chang Phoenix Pavilion. When the woman heard this, her originally calm face broke into a smile. From today onwards, you can just call me Senior Sister. Now follow me back to greet Master. After greeting Master, you can come back to say goodbye to them. As soon as the woman finished speaking, she took Tuoba Xiao away in front of the group of Emperor gods who were present in disbelief. From the beginning until the end, no one stopped her and no one dared to stop her. Ha ha ha. The leader of the Yuan family from the Netherworld Prefecture laughed heartily. The Yuan family is lucky. The Netherworld Prefecture is lucky. The other god emperors of the Yuan family were also overjoyed. The other 2 emperor gods from the Netherworld Prefecture were also overjoyed. As for the emperor gods from the Li sect of the Daming Prefecture, their faces were ashen. Tuoba Xiao was accepted by the Ni Chang Phoenix Pavilion. Moreover, the female ultimate god who had a complete soul high-grade divine artifact asked Tuoba Xiao to call her senior sister. Didn't she want to take Tuoba Shio as her disciple? Was it her master who wanted to take Tuoba Shio as her disciple? A upper ultimate god who had a complete soul high-grade divine artifact and was the master of one of the strongest upper ultimate gods. Who would believe that she was not a ultimate god? Perhaps she was not an ordinary ultimate god. The Li sect is finished. At this moment, the emperor gods from the Li sect were in despair. The intermediate god emperors invited by the Li sect were also furious. They glared at the people from the Li sect. They felt that the Li sect had caused their deaths. From now on, it would not be good for them to show their faces. Perhaps leaving the Shengang land was the right thing to do? Otherwise, they would die in the hands of the ultimate god from the Nichang Phoenix Pavilion. They remembered that the old ladies from the Nichang Phoenix Pavilion were very protective of their disciples. The group of god emperors from the Mystic Jade Mansion who were watching the show exchanged glances. They could see the shock and disbelief in each other's eyes. The female prodigy that the Netherworld Prefecture had spent so much effort to cultivate was not only invited to join the Nichang Phoenix Pavilion, but she was also going to be the disciple of an ultimate god? When they came back to their senses, they smiled and congratulated the emperor gods from the Netherworld Prefecture. Tuoba Shio was invited to join the Rainbow Phoenix Pavilion? Duan Lingtian heard the news a few days later. He was also shocked. He did not expect that the girl would become a member of the Nichang Phoenix Pavilion in the blink of an eye. 2 days ago he was still reading the introduction of the Nichang Phoenix Pavilion that Zhenping Fan gave him. I'm afraid that the Li clan of the Daming Prefecture is going to be finished, right? Duan Lingtian could not help but sigh emotionally when he heard about this from Zhenping Fan. Zhenping Fan answered Duan Lingtian's question with a complicated tone. The Li clan was supposed to be disbanded. However, when the people of the Li clan wanted to leave, they found that they could not. The Li clan's encampment was enveloped by a great formation. Even if a group of intermediate god emperors from the Li clan worked together, they could not break it. According to Marshal Uncle Yi, it should be the array master of the Nichang Phoenix Pavilion who made the move. Only a godly master of the array master of the Nichang Phoenix Pavilion would be able to do such a thing and imprison the people of the Li sect. Duan Lingtian was shocked when he heard Zhenping Fan's words. Using his own power to imprison everyone in the Yuan Li sect? There was even a group of emperor gods among them? It's obvious that the Nichang Phoenix Pavilion did not plan to avenge Tuoba Shio personally. It seems like they want to wait for Tuoba Shio to grow stronger before taking revenge. We can conclude that the person who took Tuoba Shio in as a disciple is either the ultimate god array master from the Nichang Phoenix Pavilion or the array master's junior sister. Duan Lingtian could not help but click his tongue after listening to Zhenping Fan's explanation. He did not expect that the girl who he thought was in danger would not only join the Nichang Phoenix Pavilion, but the ultimate god array master from the Nichang Phoenix Pavilion would also personally help her imprison her enemy. What a pity, Zhenping Fan sighed. Say, if you didn't bring any weapons, the ultimate god array master from the Nichang Phoenix Pavilion might be more willing to take you in. Why don't you consider cutting it off? Zhenping Fan's tone became more playful as he spoke. Before Duan Lingtian could speak, he added, "That's not right. I don't know if the Nichang Phoenix Pavilion would accept someone who transforms from a male to a female. I don't think she's a woman, right? Elder Jin, if you're interested you can give it a try." Duan Lingtian said, "I think the Nichang Phoenix Pavilion would not reject you when the time comes." When Duan Lingtian reached the end of his sentence he laughed. Both of them knew that the other was joking. However, both of them were amused by the joke. That's right. After the joke, Zhenping Fan seemed to have thought of something and changed his tone. You shouldn't cultivate in seclusion for the time being. If I'm not wrong, the ultimate god array master should be here soon. When the time comes, no matter what you choose, you'll have to show up. You can't afford to offend any of the powers behind them. Upon hearing Zhenping Fan's words, the smile on Duan Lingtian's face disappeared and he nodded. At the same time he was thinking about which powerful ultimate god array master would be coming. As for ordinary ultimate god array masters, he was not interested in joining them. It was easy to go from frugality to extravagance, but difficult to go from extravagance to frugality. Knowing that he would be valued and invited by a powerful ultimate god array master, he naturally did not want to join an ordinary ultimate god array master. That kind of ultimate god array master was not as powerful as the ultimate god array master in all aspects, so there was a limit to what they could offer him. He, on the other hand, was in a race against time. When the time comes, it'll depend on which powers invite me and the conditions they put forward. If they're sincere and respect me, I'll consider them. If they're not sincere or don't respect me, I won't consider them. As for Zhen Pingfan saying that he could not afford to offend those powers, he was well aware of this. Otherwise, even if he could join another power, Chunyang School would be in trouble. Chunyang School was considered a giant in Tunglung province. However, in front of a powerful ultimate god array master, it was just a small sect that was not worth mentioning. As long as a powerful ultimate god array master wanted to, they could easily destroy Chunyang School. While Duan Lingtian and Zhen Pingfan were talking, several figures were flying toward Chunyang School. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Chapter 4086. Outside the Chunyang School. A travel-worn figure flew through the air and stood in the void, calmly looking in the direction of the Chunyang School's encampment. Behind him, a young man stood there, looking curiously in front of him. Masters Jr., is this where the Chunyang School's encampment is located? The heaven and earth spirit chi here is really thin, far worse than our Hanlin Divine Mansion. The heaven and earth spirit chi in our Hanlin Divine Mansion is denser than the outside of the Chunyang School's encampment. The young man was wearing a silver robe with golden edges. His face was arrogant, and his words were full of contempt for the Chunyang School from the bottom of his heart. Standing in front of him and looking at the Chunyang School's encampment was an old man wearing a light green robe. He shook his head. There's no comparison. Don't forget, the Chunyang School is only an emperor-level sect, and it doesn't even have a high-level divine emperor. Our Hanlin Divine Mansion is one of the top 20 godly venerable forces in the Shengang land. In the Shengang land, there are hundreds of godly venerable forces with godly venerables. If you include the pseudo-godly venerable forces with no godly venerable experts, there are even more. And this Chunyang School is far from being a pseudo-godly venerable force. At least a pseudo-godly venerable force has a high-level divine emperor. At this point, the old man paused as if he had thought of something and said, however, the Chunyang School has Yi Qinfeng, who is considered a good force among the emperor-level forces. However, compared to our Hanlin Divine Mansion, there is still no comparison. If the Chunyang School can be compared to our Hanlin Divine Mansion, why would the Duan Lingtian accept our invitation to join the Hanlin Divine Mansion? Isn't it the same everywhere? Moreover, as far as I know, the Chunyang School is wholeheartedly cultivating him without reservation. As soon as the old man said this, the young man immediately nodded. If he were Duan Lingtian, he would not have chosen to leave the Chunyang School, which he was familiar with. Martial uncle, are we going to knock on the door? The young man asked. Before the old man could say anything, the young man snorted and said, in my opinion, since you came here in person, Yi Qinfeng, the most powerful man in the Chunyang School, should come out to greet you. When the old man heard this, he raised his eyebrows. When you're in someone else's territory, you should be humble and keep a low profile. This time, as far as I know, it's not just our Hanlin Divine Mansion that has sent people. Even the Crimson Bright Heavenly Palace, the Mon-Origin Divine Sect, and other major ultimate gods' forces have sent people. If you're too arrogant and make the people of Chunyang School unhappy, and it reaches Duan Lingtian's ears, maybe he won't consider our Hanlin Shinfu anymore. And if the mansion finds out that it's because of you that Duan Lingtian can no longer enter the mansion, do you think you'll be in a good situation? The young man's expression changed when he heard the old man's words. At the same time, he took a deep breath, and the arrogance on his face disappeared, replaced by a peaceful expression. I understand, martial uncle. From now on, I won't look down on Chunyang School just because it's only an emperor-level sect. The young man said solemnly. The old man nodded in relief when he heard this. You're talented. You're considered a genius in the Hanlin Divine Mansion with high comprehension, so it's normal for you to be a little arrogant. Still, there are many times when you should be humble. Take Chunyang School's Duan Lingtian as an example. Although I haven't met him yet, I've investigated him and found him to be humble. He's not arrogant because of his talent and high comprehension. You'll have to learn more about this. When the old man said this, the young man seemed to be nodding, but there was a hint of jealousy in the depths of his eyes. 7th Chunyang School's genius? First place in the 7 prefectures feast? Less than 3,000 years old but comprehended the law of space and teleported twice? Mastered the way of the sword? In his opinion, how could a disciple of an emperor-level sect from a backwater village achieve such achievements at such a young age? He was more than 6,000 years old, but he was not as good as the other party. One had to know that although he was not the top of the younger generation in the Hanlin Divine Mansion, he was still above average. Wang Chaoran of the Hanlin Divine Mansion is here to visit Chunyang School. I hope you can inform them on my behalf. The old man, who was the messenger of the Hanlin Divine Mansion, had come to invite Duan Lingtian to join the Hanlin Divine Mansion. His voice rang out and accurately fell into the ears of the patrolling elders and disciples outside the Chunyang School's encampment. Suddenly everyone was shocked. Someone was here? When they looked outside and saw the two figures standing there, even the patrolling elders of the Pure Sun sect were frightened out of their wits. They were so close but they did not notice. Hanlin Divine Mansion? Could it be the godly venerable faction in our Shengang land? The number one faction in the residence of Yunhan, the Hanlin Divine Mansion? In the Shengang land I've only heard of the Hanlin Divine Mansion. It should be right. A heavyweight ultimate god level force would never allow another force to share the same name as it, unless it's an unknown force. Since they don't know, they naturally wouldn't make a fuss about it. However, these two people were able to come so close to our Pure Sun sect's encampment without anyone noticing. It's impossible for them to come from an unknown force. The sect master has already sent someone to tell us that someone from the heavyweight faction in the Shengang land should be coming soon. It should be right. Quickly inform the higher-ups and let them inform the sect master. Everyone, follow me to greet the seniors of the Hanlin Divine Mansion. According to the higher-ups, the people from those heavyweight factions this time are most likely godly venerable experts. Even if they aren't, they must be high-level godly emperors. After the patrolling elders of the Pure Sun sect sent out one message after another, they led a group of patrolling disciples outside and respectfully bowed to the person who had just arrived. Greetings, senior. Please wait for a moment, senior. Our Chunyang School's elder Lu Fenggu will be here soon. Almost at the same time as the patrolling elders of the Pure Sun sect finished speaking, a figure had already shot over from afar, arriving in front of the crowd in an instant. It was the patriarch of the Chunyang School's domineering faction, Lu Fenggu. After Lu Fenggu appeared, he looked at the old man with a hint of fear in his eyes. At the same time he quickly cupped his hands and bowed. Lu Fenggu greets Senior Wang. The old man, Elder Wang Chaoran of the Hanlin Divine Mansion, smiled at Lu Fenggu's salute. I've long heard of Elder Lu's great name. I didn't expect that I, Wang Chaoran, would be personally welcomed by Elder Lu. Although Wang Chaoran had told the young man behind him to keep a low profile and not cause trouble, there was a hint of satisfaction in his eyes when Lu Fenggu personally came out to welcome him. He had only recently learned about the Chunyang School and knew that Lu Fenggu was definitely one of the top two figures in the Chunyang School. After the Hidden Sword faction's patriarch Yi Qinfeng, he was second. Senior, please. Lu Fenggu directly invited Wang Chaoran and Lu Fenggu in and respectfully led the way in front of the old man. Although he looked calm, his heart was in turmoil. A godly venerable expert. He's definitely a godly venerable expert. A high-level godly emperor can't possibly give me this feeling. Although he did not deliberately probe, Lu Fenggu felt that the Hanlin Divine Mansion expert in front of him was definitely not a high-level godly emperor, let alone someone below that level. Under such circumstances, the old man could only be a godly venerable expert. The first heavyweight godly venerable expert from a faction has arrived. He's also the earliest godly venerable expert to arrive among all the godly venerable experts. In fact, before the arrival of the Hanlin Divine Mansion, there were also some godly venerable experts who had arrived. However, those were just ordinary godly venerable experts who had arrived. Most of them were high-level godly venerable experts. Wang Chaoran, the Hanlin Divine Mansion expert, was the first godly venerable expert to arrive at the Chunyang School. In other words, he's the first godly venerable expert to enter the Chunyang School in the past 100,000 years. I didn't expect another godly venerable expert to enter the Chunyang School because of a young disciple who's not even 3,000 years old. Lu Fenggu could not help but sigh when he thought of that. The Chunyang School had to rely on a young disciple who was not even 3,000 years old to allow a godly venerable expert to enter. The Hanlin Divine Mansion expert is here. As soon as the godly venerable expert from the Hanlin Divine Mansion entered the Chunyang School, the other mid-level godly venerable experts in the Chunyang School received the news immediately. Zhen Yunfeng and Zhen Pingfan sat opposite each other in the courtyard where Zhen Yunfeng cultivated. Zhen Yunfeng told Zhen Pingfan about the matter. They're here so soon? Looks like they can't sit still anymore. Zhen Pingfan smiled. It's not that soon. Zhen Yunfeng shook his head. Don't you know that Tuoba Shio from the Underworld Mansion was taken away by the experts from the Neon Phoenix Pavilion a few days ago? Although it wasn't an godly venerable expert who took her away, it's almost the same. A high-level godly venerable expert who owns a high-grade divine artifact with a complete soul. Her master must be an godly venerable expert. There's not much difference between being taken in by an godly venerable expert and being personally invited by an godly venerable expert. Zhen Pingfan was non-committal when he heard Zhen Yunfeng's words. Father, you can't compare it like that. The Neon Phoenix Pavilion is anxious because they only accept female disciples. Now that they finally have a talented and powerful Tuoba Shio, they won't miss out on this opportunity. However, there are more than a dozen other godly venerable level factions like the Neon Phoenix Pavilion. I'm afraid they're only interested in Duan Ling Tian among the top 10 in the 7 prefectures feast. They might not even be interested in Wang Xiong, who is as strong as Tuoba Shio or even stronger than Tuoba Shio. Zhen Yunfeng said. However, even if Tuoba Shio isn't as strong as Wang Xiong now, there's a great chance that she'll surpass him in the future. There aren't many people in the Neon Phoenix Pavilion, which means that their resources are concentrated. Tuoba Shio will definitely become someone great in the future. Zhen Yunfeng said with certainty. That's true. Zhen Pingfan nodded in agreement and asked with a smile, Father, how many godly venerable level factions do you think will come this time? You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.